Hello, hello. I see one person in on YouTube. Hello, hello, hello. I've been working hard today, getting out new resources for our Patreon platform community over there. Some juicy, juicy stuff. I thought I would come here. I did not post today on TikTok. You know, I be needing them quiet moments. I be needing those quiet moments. But today I want to talk about the Bible magic. I think that's a good topic to go from since we use our Bible in Hoodoo. Hey, sweet. Hello, hello. Hello, everyone. Hello. Today I want to talk about Bible magic in Hoodoo, Bible magic in Hoodoo. I don't know if anyone has ever read that book, Hoodoo Bible Magic. Really good book. But again, they sell these books without context. And so what happens, you kind of lose what's going on in there if you don't understand all the context. Okay. And they're just giving you what helped them on their journey. But today we broke it all down. And today I was going to talk about that breakdown a little bit. Who uses the Psalms in their workings? Hey, Savvy Events, who use the Bible in their workings? Or I had somebody to say, I really don't like the fact that we have to use the Bible in our workings. But that's the spiritual structure of Hoodoo. And so it makes more sense when you get over there uh, on our platform where we break that down and then you go, aha, this is why we use it. It has nothing to do with Christianity. It has everything to do with the esoteric meaning that Hoodoo gives it. And so you get a chance to break that down over there. But we certainly broke it down today, especially looking at that book, looking at our book and breaking down why we use Hoodoo. Another interesting book to review, and you should be able to find this book. I think it's like Hoodoo, Conjure, and Witchcraft. Anyway, the book is written by Henry Hyatt. That's a really good book with some gems in it as well that we have broken down over there. If you're interested in that, but Hoodoo and the Bible go hand in hand when you can understand it from a a Hoodoo perspective. And diving into Hoodoo, looking at the Hoodoo perspective, we have to go into Jewish mysticism and where it first came from. And so we see it. We jump into Jewish mysticism. Uh, again, we're not the only folk magic that use it. That use Jewish mysticism. But when you look at Jewish mysticism, even going far back, you can tell it is from the divine feminine. Okay, especially when you look at Zohar, because with those Aramic elements that Zohar has. And so, and the further you go back into Aramic history, you understand that they they had a divine feminine structure, especially when it comes to understanding the moon. So we break all this stuff down over there so you can understand the occult meaning behind some of the books that you're buying. Like there's great books out there, don't get me wrong, but if you don't have the context, you don't have the proper information then none of it is going to work like a science for you. And because knowing the timing, when to do it, and that was a great thing we went through today. We actually broke down the almanac, where I can show people show you that there are times of days where you can do work and ritual. So we got that all broke down over there, so you can look at the almanac as well. But they do. I want to mention this: they do sell almanacs that you can craft your spells to as well. Hi, Devion, Zale, Devi, and Bruce Fallon. But we break that down to give you a basic understanding of how to read your almanac and why our ancestor was reading it. They were really ahead of their time, even with that almanac, and they didn't have access to certain esoteric books, and they were still able to break that down and use it to their advantage through Annism. So that's a great thing to break down and to look at that. But yeah, we break all that down over there and show you how to read your almanac and where the information is to craft your spells, craft your workings. Since doing work at a certain time is very paramount in your working. That is why we push rituals and ritual. Hello, Marlo Tyson. That's why we push ritual and following the timing. Again, building up that magical muscle, getting you used to connecting with this higher vibrations and frequencies and energies. So that's what the rituals are for. Okay, we're gonna take all the fluff out of it, no matter what you see here, and it's nothing spooky about it. It's nothing spooky about hoodoo at all. It's actually a science. Once you understand the science to it, it's going to really you're gonna be like, wow, that's it. That's it. That's it. That is just that's it. Once you get the science to it and you don't have to be out here just grabbing this work and this work and this work and not knowing the components to it or when to do it or how to do it or what energies to work with to get it done. All of that is important. I know you think what you've seen here, it doesn't look that way. Hello, on top, Baki, Barbara Wilburn. I know it looks like it's not like that, but it is like that. If you're ready to get up at 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning, best time to do your workings. We break that all down. That is the best time to do your working. So if you don't mind getting up 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning, doing rituals, doing your workings, and then working by the almanac, then hoodoo is for you. Okay. They call it magic. I like calling it science because if you follow everything in the course, you will see results. I had someone over there. I don't know if it was Ashley or Kayla, but one of them they were like, "Oh my gosh, if you just follow the instructions, it works." I know. I know. I know. You have to tell me if you just follow the instructions, it works. That's simple. It's nothing complicated about it, especially when we get in to Jewish mysticism and looking at how our ancestors used that to kind of keep it together. But then we go into the indigenous knowledge as well. And that is the part that is closed and locked down. And we get into that in some of the writings by the author of Henry Hyatt, really looking at those stories, looking at the interviewers, and looking at the knowledge that he recorded. We gain a lot by looking at those original workings. So it's very eye opening when we get over there and get into here it is. It's very eye opening once we get into things over there. Does anyone have any questions about hoodoo? Any questions at all? And we're getting ready to like I said, we meet on the 13th, and after that, we're going to go into tarot workshops where we teach divination over there the correct way. Because that's going to be the center of your practice. Get a reading before you do anything. Talk to your ancestors. Uh, you're going to need some type of divination tool to do that. And we're going to go into scrying as well. I'll be teaching people how to make a magic mirror and how to use water for scrying. Just simple things over there. From the hoodoo perspective, what our ancestors use. I have a question. I'm having a hard time staying consistent or even still practicing. Any advice? Again, that's going to be the most important thing is staying consistent and knowing which energies you're going to work with. If you can be consistent in that and finding out what's your intentions. I know over there we hurry up and get you to doing your rituals by the hour and the day. And so maybe if you knew the hour of the day to do the ritual, you can be more consistent. And that certainly helps me when I get up in the morning. I take a look at the planetary hours and I kind of decide what I'm going to do based on the day. That certainly helps me and what I'm trying to do. But again, we break all that down over there because I don't know which energies, your intentions. I don't know any of that. And we're just not getting into here lately. We'll probably be getting into more of the workings, but for right now, we are focused on the spiritual science, and we're just not getting into like doing book reviews of other hoodoo books, because the main purpose over there was to get some foundation. And in hoodoo, foundation is very important. It's very important knowing the spiritual science of hoodoo. You know some of the things our ancestors did, but over there we give it more context so you can understand it, and you have those aha moments and become more comfortable with your practice. That's what happens over there. We're doing a book review today on Hoodoo Bible magic, and going through there, everything through that book, we give it context over there. And so and then showing that to a lot of the members that bought a lot of things together for them after me going over the foundation of hoodoo. Because you have a lot of books out there, they're giving you part of the information, which is good information, but they're not giving you the other part of it, which is the rituals, the consistency, the divination, the ancestor veneration that goes with that. So it's more than one component that goes with that. Hi, Mama. Hi, I'm Carl Ingram T. To Bless and Mimi Bugs, Mama G, Introvert. So we give you a lot of content. So if you're interested in learning hoodoo, uh, and again, learning it, crafting your own work, seeing what resonates with you. Because today we talked about paper magic, and a lot of people don't know about paper magic. But when we start looking at what is we looking at? The Lesser Key of Solomon, and we start looking at the 6 or 7 books of Moses, you can really start thinking about paper magic in your petitions. Okay, so we really talked about paper magic and how we could use paper because our ancestors used what they had. Sometimes they had no candle; they had nothing but a paper and a pencil, and so they had to work that paper. And so we talked about that today in the various ways you can write petitions and the various ways you can work with paper as well. But see, if you don't know the backdrop of what's going on, um, you'll think you have limitations, but you really don't. Yeah, there's no limits with hoodoo. There's no limit. Your magic may not look like somebody else's magic. That's perfectly fine. I wouldn't expect it to be. Okay, I wouldn't expect your magic to look like anyone else's. So that's why you'll see over there. Someone was asking me that I think they wanted to make Van oil, or I forgot what kind of oil they wanted to make. And she was like, "Where is the such and such?" And I dropped the book in the chat so she can look at it for herself and craft her own oils, her own conjure oil. Again, getting hands on. I want you to be totally independent, because I understand that a lot of people, hello Cub, hello Cooking with the Bet. I know a lot of people, they share a lot of workings up here. They're sharing spells, they're sharing this and that. Um, and does it work for some people? It might work for some people. But what if it don't? What if it doesn't work? Do you know what to do when it doesn't work? When the spell doesn't work, when the work is not working, do you know what to do? Do you know what's going on? Do you know how to divine for yourself? Because that's going to be important. A lot of people want to get out there and be raggedy and raw dog it, and they want to do a spell and not really think about, do I really need to do this? I need to talk to my ancestors first. They're just out here doing things. And then there is a right way to do it. There is a right way to do this, you guys. It is. It is a science. It's not just spells, 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 spells. It's not just that. Okay. And you can do simple workings, like I said, just with a piece of paper and a pencil. If you know what you're doing, a piece of paper and a pencil in up there. Okay, here we go. So there's a lot of things that we talk about over there. I'm just not sure what everybody is interested in. We definitely see, can I bring up this book and maybe scroll through some topics about the book? Let's see, because that book, and it's I think I did a book review here on my YouTube channel about Hoodoo Bible Magic. And those of you who have gotten the book, who has that book and have you used that book? Has anybody read Hoodoo Bible Magic? Anybody? Hi, where it is. Hello, hello. Has anyone read Hoodoo Bible Magic? Let me know in the comments if you ever read it. Thank you, where it is. Where it is, as Liz. Anyone has read that book before? It's a really good book. I remember reading that book when I first began my hoodoo journey. Uh, I read that book, one of the first books I got. It talks about the Bible comes to hoodoo. Uh, it's scripture magic, Psalms magic, divinatory magic. I mean, it has a variety of things it talks about in this book. It's packed with a lot of information. Hello, True Blue Jew. Hello. It's full of information. But what now going back reading it, and now that I was able to provide more context uh, over there on the platform in our community, I realized this book is really for someone who is, they have to know what is going on in this book. Okay, especially with the things that they mention. So let me go through one of the things that they mention. Like one of the things they talk about is the 6 and 7 books of Moses, and it shows a seal here, but then it kind of falls off. Okay, and so you're kind of and it talks about another book called the uh, what is that? Candle Master. It's by Henry uh Gamache, I think. And so if you have not read those books and you're not familiar with it, you'll really miss the understanding and the context to everything that is saying here. Okay? That's why I say in these books they give you a little bit like here they talk about the lesser key of Solomon here. uh and we talk about the lesser key of Solomon. Before I even dropped this book, we went over all of this information. uh is on our Hoodoo platform before I even dropped these books. That's why I say I would not drop any books until or anything until I get you a foundation. Once you've gotten you a foundation, the books will start making sense to you. So if you ever read that book Hoodoo Magic, uh, it definitely is going to make more sense once you have the foundation. But they try to give you as much information as they can. I know because Hoodoo is reading all the literature and putting things together. Like any spiritual science, it takes study. Okay, and a practitioner, you're always studying because you don't really master this thing. You don't even like master anything. You're practicing. Okay, I would say that with anyone on their spiritual journey. Is we don't know more than spirit. We just don't. And it goes on, and we talk about the seven pinnacle of Jupiter. And so it's showing that here. But again, you'll miss all the context here. It's giving you the seventh pinnacle of Jupiter. Jupiter is good for expansion. It's good for abundance. Uh, but how do we use this pinnacle? How do we use this pinnacle? How can we use this in our workings? And so we break all that down and give you different ways that you can use seals, where you can use pentacles, where you can use sigils, where you can use this in your workings to amplify your work. Because now you know what it means, you know what it does. All of this is hoodoo, you guys. All of what I'm speaking about, it is hoodoo. So we basically, in when we went through this book, you can really start to see things come together and lights start to go off when we start looking at this book. It does this book, like I said, a lot of the books that you get are not going to make sense until you have the other parts of it. You got the open parts. We have the closed parts over there in Spiritual Roots. We have the closed parts. We have the closed parts to help you understand it. So that's what you get when you get over there. You get the closed parts. One of the other things that we went over here today, we also broke down, because here they were talking about each patriarch, Jewish patriarch, had their own magical tradition. So I like the way they kind of broke that down. But then I go in to decolonize that, to help people understand it's just not about the patriarchs either, because there were powerful conjure women and root workers in the Bible as well. There were women, so we decolonized that as well. Uh, this is a like I said, this is a great book. And then we also went in here when it says talked about the spiritualist churches that's all around African America in Africa in America, the African American spiritualist churches. And there are still a few in effect in different places. So, and this book, it just goes over that. Juicy book. But again, you may have some books and a lot of hoodoo books. And I've seen them out there. I have read plenty of them. And what I've noticed about most of them is that they fail to give, and now I don't expect them to give it because it's closed. They do not provide that. Okay, it said it's the real Tashi. Okay, thanks for the book info. Sorry coming in late. You're discussing the course. Yeah, I'm kind of discussing the course a little bit, just little bitty highlights. Really going over the book Hoodoo Magic that we dropped in there. That's going to be dropping soon, and it really brings the information together on our spiritual roots platform. And me talking about, hey, if you got the book, these books, they really don't make sense if you don't understand the history behind hoodoo and the spiritual science and components of hoodoo. And I know, people have made it look easy. They have been posting work here and there and mojo bags and here and there. It makes it sound so easy. It is easy, but there's some consistency and work that goes with it too, you guys. It does. And I know some people have done spells and they think, wow, well, she just said that'll work. She just showed you her work. She didn't show you what she did to get it done. Because it is preparations to this. Is levels to this. And then sometimes, workings take, it can take anywhere from I would say from anywhere from 2 to 4 weeks to see any results. Again, it depends on your consistency as well. And what are you doing to get the magic moving? Okay, yes, many people jump right in and don't educate themselves. Yeah, you'll see that it's the real Tashi. They'll get in there and they will start doing this and start picking up things. Another thing that kind of disturbed me is making this look scary and people throwing work at each other, and and it's just from my years of a practitioner. When I see things like that, this lets me know too that these people are not fully grounded in their work doing this. You can't, you're not. Okay? If you're talking that way, if you insinuating, putting people in pots and things, that's the center of your spiritual practice, is doing some type of that. You don't know how many people that, that come to me and think they curse, and because somebody has threatened them, or because this kind of thinking ideology is so mainstream that people just assume somebody has put something on them. Okay? But sometimes that's not even the case. And so, when you're grounded in your work, you just won't think that way. You just you just don't think that way because you've already put protective layers up and things like that. That you'll see that go on there. And then the misinformation with the divination. People are getting divination, providing divination, and don't know the meaning of the tarot. There is a meaning behind tarot. You just don't pick them up and start telling stories. It doesn't work that way. It just don't. I wouldn't want it to work like that. I want to, again, it's a science. It's based off the Kabbalah. We talk about that. It's based off astrology. It's based off the four elements. Okay, so when we take a closer look at that, and it has archetypes in it. So there's no reason to, uh, tell a story with the tarot. The tarot can do that all on its own. Any questions for me? So I can just keep yapping, yapping, yapping. But I'm so excited about the things that's going on over there on that platform. Um, you really get a chance to get grounded in your work. You have some direction. Things are not just everywhere. You get the opportunity to create your own spells, your own workings, and see what resonates with you the natural way instead of just grabbing things here and not knowing how they work. You get an opportunity to learn that over there. It's a full breakdown. I had someone say, Miss Penny, you break it all the way down. Absolutely. It should be broken down to you. If someone cannot break that down to you and they're you're in a course or you're in a class and they're teaching you hoodoo and they can't break that down to you, they can't show you the spiritual science behind it, then you probably don't need to be in there. The only thing they're showing you is spells after spells, but they cannot show you the components of how magic works, how practical magic works, how contagious magic work, how sympathetic magic work, how ceremonial magic works. They can't tell you that, then I would be concerned. If this is your platform, if so, how we don't join if possible. There should be a link in my on the channel bio. Let me see if I can get you a link here. Give me just a moment. Give me just a minute and I will get you a link. There we go. Hey Monique, how you doing, baby? There is a link right there. I just put a link in there. I hope you can use that link. But I just put a link in there for you, the real Tashi. So you get a chance to get a foundation up on. You have to wonder about anything. You know, you're gonna know. Oh, I can craft this. You're gonna with the information you have. You're gonna be like, oh, I can craft this myself. I want to try this myself because it's enough information for you to understand to craft your own workings. And that's the way it should be done. You'll find out if you just like working with jars. You'll find out if you just like working with paper. You'll find out if you just like working with candles. You'll find out if you like all of it, or you just like working with certain dirts, or you just like going to the graveyard doing work. You will find all that out over there because you get a chance to experience and resonate with the material on your own. Okay, and you won't find a lot. If there's any workings going on there, you're going to find them in books, probably from your ancestors. That's the kind of workings that you have over there. Workings that come directly from real root workers in conjure work. That's the working that you'll see over there, that you can try their workings that come from them authentic workings. Okay, you won't see me post hardly anything over there. I might share something with you, but just start sharing just spells and stuff with you. I'll tell you how certain curios work, so you'll know how to use them in your workings, and you can craft your own workings. That's how it should be done. Okay, and there's so much information in over there about like we have 1,000 pages full of nothing but all sorts of conjure work from different parts of America. Okay, I wouldn't be joining Patreon. I love your teachings. You're welcome. Thank you. It's real. It's the real Tashi. So you'll gain a full understanding. Another thing I was very excited about on that platform, um, talking about is the other African diaspora religions and looking at hoodoo. Because when you start to look at those other African diaspora religions, such as Lakumi, Yoruba, New Orleans voodoo. You start to look at them, and what we do in hoodoo makes sense when you start looking again at the history of hoodoo and looking at the other African diaspora religions and spiritual practices. And I love hoodoo because, it's not initiated. A lot of those African diaspora religion went into initiation, which to me is a form of colonization. Okay. We didn't do that. We didn't make it a religion. We just closed it. And there's a two different things. A religion, there's a lot of gatekeeping going on. When you hear initiate, that is gatekeeping. Okay. Especially when they don't want to provide you any information and want you to get initiated. They don't want to educate you. And you'll also find out if you want to be initiated with all the information that we provide over there. You'll find out, oh, it's initiation for me because I break it all down for you, and you can decide whether you want to be initiated or not. And there's definitely uh, a lot of information over there to help you connect with the Orishas, to help you connect with voodoo, you know, as we definitely break that down when you look at the African diaspora religions. And I've never seen anyone break it down that way. Um, especially, a lot of people they just want to focus on the Christian part, and I have to, say it is not Christian. Hoodoo is not Christian. And so to understand the indigenous components of hoodoo, we must look at the other African diaspora religions. And it gives hoodoo greater context and understanding when we're able to look at those other African diasporic religions, such as, like I said, Lakumi, Umbanda, um, Espiritismo. We look at those, and you just be like, "Oh my gosh, now this makes so much sense." While we have a variety of indigenous ancestors like Black Hawk and all these other indigenous ancestors. Absolutely, these initiates are money grabs. Also, in my opinion, some are. And yes, it has become too commercialized and colonized. And the thing about hoodoo, this is an ancestral spiritual practice. We can connect with the voodoo. We can connect with the orishas, and there's definitely information over there to safely help you do that. You do not need to be initiated. I can't keep repeating that enough. You don't need to be initiated, if not unless that's something that you choose. And my thing, if you're going to choose somebody to do that, they should be willing. They shouldn't even really say anything about initiation. They should start teaching you about their religion. There should be nothing about money being talked about, nothing but education until you get to the point and you say, "Hey, I want to initiate." And really, I see no reason for it. I am my ancestor's child. I'm a hoodoo child, and so my thing, I want to be, I like hoodoo. I like to work with, look at different spiritual systems and apply them to my workings if they work. I just like that liberty. And some people they want to be initiated, but again, I did a discussion on that too. Most people that are initiated, from my understanding, they are called in there through some type of spiritual crisis. Um, they're usually called in there by a deity or some type of psychosis, and then they go into and initiate. Okay. Those are the reasons. The reasons that I see people doing initiation today is for, and this is just my opinion, for branding and for title, to market, branding, and title. They have no, you know, again, you have to ask them why were they initiated and why are they fighting so hard to get you initiated? Because if you're rooted in your spirituality, You'll simply want to share that experience with everyone and not try to shove initiation down people's throat. Because I'm seeing that, they, especially some of us that's not initiated. Hi, Ashe, SBH, SS, SDI. They especially want to tell you, what you can and can't do. You can't do it because you're initiated. Who are you talking to? Most of you guys are African diaspora religion. Your religion was formed out of African diaspora because we were displaced. And so when you tell somebody who experienced that they can't do something because they're initiated, please look at yourself. It doesn't make you look good saying that, because you practice under the table, that religion under the table, until it was legal to make it a religion, and there was no initiations. So again, we really need to look at, like I said, we're going to have a discussion with them at some point. It will have to be a sit down with them so they can stop that type of behavior, because now initiation has become some sort of title, some sort of branding, and it has lowered the morale and ethics of the practice. And so, again, we'll have a discussion on that, but we certainly teach you about all that. Again, to root you in your spiritual practice, to make you comfortable. If you do resonate with a certain energy or a certain system, we make you comfortable enough and providing you with enough information where you can do what you need to do or do what you feel to do. Okay. And one of the things about hoodoo as well is it's really ancestral based. The more I look at hoodoo, it's almost like a ancestral magic or ancestral shamanism. That's basically what it starts looking like when you get deep and rooted in your practice and you start to do your rituals. It starts to feel like shamanism. It starts to feel like ancestral magic because it's so immersed in the ancestors. Okay. So we do talk about ancestral veneration over there. We go through a whole lecture of helping you understand ancestors, and ancestors is not just family. Ancestors is not just family. I know you have heard that people say that. You have some people, um, which I don't knock anyone or what they're doing, but it is not difficult to communicate with your ancestors. It is not. It's not. If somebody is complicating that, I have no reason why they would complicate that. It's really easy. Okay. When you start being consistent, thing about hoodoo, about any magic, is consistency. Because again, opening up the channels of communication with your ancestors and then programming your mind for magic. That's where the rituals come in at. You got to be programmed and to activate that ashe and that magic. And so the more you're consistent at the rituals, I can't beat this in your head enough. You're gonna hear me say this all the time. I don't care. I'm gonna keep saying it because I want you to succeed. I want you to see your magic work. Consistency with your rituals. And we're getting ready to talk about that more over there because we got a few members over there, and I just want to check in with a lot of them and see have they implemented their rituals in their daily life. And like I tell people, you want to jump over here in hoodoo. Hoodoo is a way of life. This is nothing you pick up and fly by and you just, it's a way of life. Okay. There is character work involved. There is shadow work. It is ancestors work. And all of this is a byproduct of tapping into your magic. It all works together. You cannot have one without the other. You got people that keep doing spells, 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 but at some point they're going to run to a block and something they're not going to be able to do, and they're not going to be able to fix it. You got some people that read tarot, 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 at some point, a lot of them cannot read for themselves because why? They have blocks. They're not ready to look at themselves. Like I said, you keep playing with that tarot, you're gonna heal. It's fun and fancy when you're reading for other people until you reach that block and start reading for yourself, and all your life go to hell, and you're forced to heal because the tarot gonna keep calling you out. It's just how it works. And you start to understand how to use the tarot and respect the tarot in your hoodoo workings once you learn to do divination. You learn that that is a telephone, a medium to tapping into spirit. And you really start understanding those messages. And you can't do rituals without protection. So people sometimes skip the steps, confuse themselves. The divinate you show right, the balance being. Balance being saying, and you can't do rituals without protection. So people sometimes skip steps and confuse themselves with divination or block themselves. Exactly. Where you do anything, the cleansing is necessary. Bathing yourself, scrubbing yourself, setting the intentions. It all goes together. Got some people picking up, work, doing heavy work like roll opener and things like that, and they haven't did the process to even start the roll opener. Or you got people that's trying to do money magic, you know, but you got this over here, bill over here, you got this right here that's blocking your money. So first you got to do a blockbuster and break all that down before you even do any money work. Again, it's levels to this. Or even do a reading before you even do the work. Before you do any work, do a reading. Ask your ancestors. See what your spirit guides have to say before you do the work. And then do the cleansing work. If you heavy, you feel heavy before you do the work, then before you do the work, you need to go ahead and start doing you some cleansing work and then start on it. Hey, Coley Cole. And that's gonna start again, when you get your almanac, you'll be able to know when you're gonna work your magic. You can schedule when you're gonna do magic instead of sporadically doing it. If you're consistent on your rituals, you'll be able to plan your magic. Okay. It should be planned. You'll have it all planned out. I even have a ritual sheet when we talked about the archangels and doing rituals with archangels and crafting your rituals and the things you do. We even have a little sheet, a little diagram that you can follow and print out and write down, your whole ritual, what you did, what happened, everything. Because again, this is a science. And that's how I address it. Okay. Because it is. If you follow the instructions, it just works. It'll scare you. So you be like, damn, this really work. Yeah, it does. It works. You follow and read the instructions. That's all you had to do. All you had to do is listen to you and follow the instructions. Okay. That's all you have to do. And it's certainly a spiritual science. And a lot of people don't want to talk about that, especially when we get into the curios, such as the rabbit's foot, the alligator teeth. All of these things, they hold a certain psychic energy, and so you can use them in your workings depending on what you're doing. Okay, but the main thing is building up, like the balance said, building up that protection, getting those psychic and spiritual muscles strong with ritual, with consistency. If you have an almanac, and you can really be more precise with your spells, with your workings. That almanac can help you hit it, hit it, you know, hit it right on the target when you know what you're looking at. Okay, and then you can plan everything out. You'll already have be prepared to do the ritual, and things are going go much smoother. There's a time for everything. And we do know emergencies do come up. And in that case, then you can do the working. But if it's not any emergency or anything like that, you'll have more. And usually when emergency come up, that's when you go into your ritual. Your ritual is strong. You can go in and you can work with those energies to bring about changes because you have been consistent at your hourly or weekly rituals. Okay, depending on which energies you want to work with. And so you really get a chance to understand hoodoo in its fullness over there. I don't think, it's not too much you can get out of hoodoo if someone is constantly giving you spells or they constantly telling you what root to work with and the meaning of the root. What are you learning that way? What are you passing down that way? Because, too, we want to pass this knowledge down. We don't want to lose it again. I know I don't. So I want to document it. I want to have some record of it. Even when I'm doing working on my altar, I record every divination. I interpret the divination, record the workings, what I felt, what was my thoughts. All of those, that is scientific information. And you go back and it's all gonna make sense. You be like, you'll see your intuition at work. You be like, oh my gosh, I had it right. Oh my God, I got this. Oh my gosh, I got it right. Yes. And you need to see that. You need to see that you already are working with your ancestors. You already have this knowledge inside of you. You just was needing the components. And the components, we have the components to help you make sense of it. And your magic mind needs to make sense of it. If you want to access your magic, you have to make sense of your magic. Okay? And we talk about conjure, too. Music is a big influence in your working too. That gives a lot of your working some energy to get going as well. I tell you what that happened to me the other day. I was doing some altar work on my altar, and I was reading one of the Bible scriptures. And do you know it's like the ancestors or something just took over. Do you know I started preaching I started using a rhythmic preaching to those verses. It tripped me out when I did it. I was like, oh my, and it went so smooth when I was saying the verses. I was like, what is happening here? What is happening here? It felt like an ancestor had took over my mouth and was helping me uh say those Bible verses in a rhythmic way that was conjuring, if that made sense. I had never did that before. And of course I was listening to an old school gospel too. Cause that really helps you do conjuring too. And it tripped me out when it happened. I was like, oh my gosh, again, that ancestral knowledge will come in once you start doing your work. And it definitely came in. I just started rhythmically uh caught a rhythmic sort of huffing and puffing, how and the Lord said, and that's how I start saying those verses, and it tripped me out. So even that, I picked up a hi, real serenity. Hello, hello, Ashe, Ashe. I picked up again, the ancestors just took over. So again, we talked about that in Hoodoo Bible Magic. It's those verses that we do say, remember that our ancestors said them before, and they have a lot of psychic energy. And so when we start repeating those verses, don't be surprised if your ancestors, like my ancestors, just joined me. But I'm used to them coming in uh, and jumping in and taking over because again, we constantly talk clairaudibly, and then I call them in on my rituals. So I leave that open, and for what, I was saying the verses in a rhythmic way. I was like, "Is this how is this supposed to be done? Is this how you want me to do this?" So again, they'll start showing you stuff once again, you'll get more and more enlightened and more information. Where? What? Hi. Where? What? We're talking about Hoodoo, Real Serenity Breeze, Tarot LLC. So, again, you when you start doing it, doing your rituals, and you're being consistent with your ancestors, they will start showing you some things. And it's you're not making it up, it's them. You're not making it up. It is actually your ancestors that is guiding you to do the work. And it started to make sense too when they start showing me that rhythm to keep while I'm saying the verse. Again, they shared more information. That's why we preach the way we preach. That's why we sing the way we sing. So now they got me going back listening to a lot of the old gospel songs. Uh Again, listening to the rhythm. Nothing is lost here once you start working with your ancestors, once you open yourself up to it. I'm living proof of that. I see it all the time. Like I said, I was at my altar the other day, and the ancestors just jumped in there and start doing that invocation with those scriptures with me, because these Bible scriptures have so much of our ancestors' psychic energy because they have said them. And so when they're said out loud in that frequency, that that signals them, especially if you're calling on the elevated ancestors. Hello, great to see you today. Hello, Orion. Hello, hello. And so and again, you start to look at the Bible from a brand new perspective, from a conjure perspective, especially with the way we break it down over there. And hopefully, my one of my members, because she said she didn't like the Bible, the Christianity, um, how it, she didn't like it. And so I broke that down to them in a way where I hope she can get past a lot of that religion feel to it. And again, you got a lot of people presenting hoodoo like Christianity, and it is not. It is not. It is a spiritual practice. It hid under Christianity. Can you practice Christianity with hoodoo? Absolutely. But do you have to be Christian to practice hoodoo? Absolutely not. The only thing you need to know is how to work that Bible and to view it through a hoodoo lens. And so when we are viewing it through a hoodoo lens, it becomes magic. Then you ain't got no power. You ain't got no problem with that Bible because you already, and it become a lifesaver. Then you be like, oh, wait a minute now, I got some jewels right here because you know how to use it. And especially when we went through the book Hoodoo Magic. Now when they look at the book Hoodoo Magic and they look at the Bible, they're just like, "Oh my gosh, I look at this totally different now." And plus the our community gives everything more context. So you don't look at the Bible as a religious book anymore. You look at it through the lens of hoodoo. Those old school gospel singer songs definitely sound like something being conjured up. It does. It does, Coley Cole. And that happened to me, right? I mean, I said, I am, using a rhythm. I don't know who I sound like. I don't know what ancestor was that came, what ancestor that came through, but I was saying that verse in a rhythmic matter that a preacher would use. Reading tarot actually led me back to Psalms and my ancestors. Okay. It'll certainly do some self reflection. That tarot will. That's what made me hesitant the first place because the Bible has translated 450 times to the point where it speaks against divination and fantasy. Oh my God. They have messed with their Bible so much. I do recommend that people get an Ethiopian Bible, uh, especially with the book, with the lecture that's going to be dropping soon. It should be dropping sometime next week over there, the Hoodoo Bible lecture, which again, I give it more context and I go through everything. You're actually going through the book with me. So I open up the book, we're looking at the book together while we go through the book, and I do a review and I point things out to you, where context where you didn't have it, now you have it. Okay. It's like I said, it's a lot of hoodoo books out there, and I think they're wonderful. It's not many I haven't read. That's just how long I've studied this and practiced this. So when I look at those books, they don't have everything in them, beloved. They just don't. Okay. Not until you start studying the Lesser Key of Solomon, the 6, 7 books of Moses. What is the other book? What is the 19th, 11th book of Moses? I got to see if I got that one, because we got into candle magic, and we got the old book, the one that was written by Henry Gamache, that we go through over there. And so that's a really good book to get you started in candle magic. So again, we go through the Lesser Key of Solomon, the Sword of Moses. Uh, what else we go through? Saint Cyprian. We go through his Grimoire, and we go through that in the Conjure course. Now, over in the Conjure course, this is when we start to really start to work with more of non-Christian type of deities, okay? Such as our voodoo, such as the Orisha, because these are their own systems, some of them. Okay, so in Conjure, we really get into showing you the format of working with other spirits. Pause for the cause to acknowledge all ancestors, angels, elders, in all places and spaces. Yes, it is 11:11. Thank you, Real Serenity Breeze Tarot. And so you get a chance to uh put those things together over there and get foundation, especially because the Sword of Moses. I can't tell you what you missing with them pinnacles and them sigils. They are so important. Like, amplify your work when you know what you're doing. You understand me? When you got the Sword of Moses, you know the power of the pen and the paper and writing a petition. Just with that right there, that amplifies your magic when you know what you're looking at and you know how you using it. You writing a petition now, but when you understand the lesser key of Solomon, when you understand the sigils and the seals and the pentacles, that takes your petition to another level. Okay, because now you're implementing more energy into it, and you're amplifying it, and you're being more direct with your petition, and they have to answer. That's one thing about it. When you're consistent at your petition, they have to answer you. That's what consistency is. If they don't answer you, they're gonna start coming up in dreams. You're gonna start having dreams, especially when you're doing the rituals and you're trying to get something done. They will start showing up in your dreams, and that's when you know your magical subconscious is being activated. When you see them coming up in your dreams, you know you're breaking through. Okay, and it should be that way. So if you are doing your rituals, you just like I had someone, I think she had started her ritual. She said she went out to do a ritual the other day, and a black dog walked up to her. Who is the symbol of the black dog? Elegba, Papa Legba. Told her to do the ritual by the road. Who is he? He is the deity of all roads. You understand me? So again, you'll start seeing those archetypes kind of immerse in your natural life if you're being consistent. The spirit is about consistency. So you can lie to us, but the one thing about it, you can't lie to spirit. That's why you don't need no initiation here, because nothing ain't gonna pop a jump until you do your part. You get in whatever you put into your magic. That's what you get out of it. If you don't put nothing in it, that's what you're gonna get out of it. But if you're putting something in and you being consistent, they got the answer. You're going to get a reply. That answer that led you. Okay. So you're gonna get a reply. You're going to get a answer if you're putting in the work and consistency. Now, a lot of you want to do this. You say you want to get into hoodoo. You say this is you're interested in it. You sitting up here grabbing spells. You know, that ain't gonna do you no good. I'm just gonna tell you, it ain't gonna do you no good because you don't know the time to do it. You don't know the energy to use. You don't know anything about working with elemental energies. You don't know anything about keeping rituals consistent. You can keep doing that for so long, but you're gonna have to be consistent at your magic for you to master it. And how do we do that? Master self. Because we go straight from the bottom up. We go straight to starting you with shadow work, ancestors work, getting you familiar with ancestor healing, how to do ancestor work, how to clear that out, start doing the work. We're getting ready to get serious now because our workshops are getting ready to crank up. So people, we get a really chance. People get a really get an opportunity to see how much work they done really done once we get into the workshops and start having discussions. And our first one is going to be on divination. I think that's important because you need to know when, why, or should do it. Should you be doing that or what you need to do. Hey, Astro Society Corporation, how you doing, beloved? Thank you for being here. How you doing? I just put a link in here. We're on Patreon. I put a link in here. Let me see if this link's still on this thing, y'all. Okay, here's another link. I just put it in the chat. There's the link to Patreon. And so you learn from the ground up. I'm not doing you any good. You gonna learn real hoodoo the way your ancestors learned it. From the ground up, building good character, doing the ancestors' work, building up your ashe. Keep doing your rituals, removing blocks, healing, going into your divine sovereignty, going into working, doing work for prosperity, for abundance. Because once you clear that out and do that healing, the miracles happen. You be like, damn, that's all I had to do. Yeah, that's all you had to do. You had to move this block and get right here, and there you go. It is not hard. We also teach you how to, not just work with ancestors, but we go into working with saints as well. So your what I love about hoodoo is you have a variety of helpers there for you. And when you know who to ask for help, you can get help. But if you don't know who to ask for help, then you're kind of like stuck. And so over there, we introduce you to a variety of helping spirits. We teach you how to work with the elements. We teach you how to work with the celestial. Okay? We teach you that hour and time is essential. And when is the best time to do some of the workings. And again, you'll find workings over there again when you go through some of the historical books and look at some of the workings that our ancestors used. I think one book I'll discuss that here. I think that was in Hoodoo, Conjurations, and Witchcraft. The book is by Henry Hyatt. Very good book. Must have in your library, full of gems. But in this book, this lady talked about how this one of her neighbors was giving her a hard time, and she talked to her husband about it. Her husband was he was a witch doctor. He still knew a lot of knowledge from his ancestors, his African ancestors. So she told her husband about what was going on with this neighbor. And he said, "Oh, you ain't gonna have to worry about her anymore. So he sketched out a picture of the neighbor. He was a good artist. The wife said he was a good artist. He sketched her down to a T. And he started taking tobacco, spitting it in her face on the picture. And she said about a month later, she saw that lady. That lady was damn near blind. Her eyes was all messed up. And it looked like somebody had been spitting tobacco in her eyes, just looking at her physically. Okay. Again, learning contagion magic, uh, learning sympathetic magic, because hoodoo is a mixture of all of that. And then when you jump into the Lesser Key of Solomon, and you jump into Let's Kill Solomon and the books of Moses, you see little components of ceremonial magic. And that's kind of when we cross over to conjure. Because again, when you cross over to conjure, that's when you're like ready to work with non-Christian entities, that you're ready to work with what the church has called goetic. So we talk about goetic spirits over there as well. Okay. And really break that down and help you understand goetic spirits and the best way to work with them. Now, I wouldn't recommend anyone to evoke any type of spirit on the physical plane, which I teach you how to do that safely, working with the astral realm through scrying, through high time stamping, arming, um, through scrying, through mirrors. You can make you a special mirror, teaching you how to construct a mirror, which we're going to go into that. And mojo bags. I think one interesting thing that we talked about, and this was just a short book, but it's packed full of information. Oh my God, it's everything all hoodoo. That book is so small, it's like 67 pages, but it's got such a punch in it. That's all everybody need to have that in their library. But in the book, they talk about how to work with dolls, and that's an interesting concept that we picked up too in Jewish mysticism when it comes to working with egregores. Some people, too, another name, and I know they try to make it different, but it's kind of the same concept when you work with a servitor. Okay, but instead you're using it, the doll, uh, which we kind of go in that and how to construct uh, that doll. And then we talk about ancestor doll as well. A golem. Yeah, it's been called a golem too. Golem. So again, working with spirit, learn how to create a spirit doll, uh, learn how to do that. And what was another one too? Ancestors doll. And I love this because I even had them. I didn't know why I was getting them at first. I was really copying what my grandmother did. But again, getting those ancestors doll, having them a place where they can reside too. So making ancestors dolls, those are good, and then making an ancestors pot. Now I found myself making an ancestors pot, and those come in handy too, especially when it comes to offering and for them having a sacred space to receive an offering. So we kind of break that down, showing you how to create that for yourself. And again, it starts looking like ancestral magic because it's so ancestral based. But we cover uh, a variety of those things over there for those that are ready to get grounded in their practice. And for those of you, you're grounded in your practice, but you want to amplify it. You want to understand the components, the spiritual components, the science behind it. That's a good place to learn because we break it all down over there so you can understand little by little. We break it down. We even break down, we do the book review, and then we go over in a lecture to break it down to give you a full understanding of the book. Okay, so it just makes it easier. It doesn't do any good. You probably do know a lot of spells. You probably do, you know. But do you know the components of it? Do you know the history of it? Do you know what makes it work? Do you know how to amplify it? Did you know you have other helpers? Your ancestors have assistants. Some of your ancestors want you working with saints. Some of your ancestors want you working with African deities. Again, we're talking about your spiritual court. Because when you start looking at your spiritual court and building your spiritual court and following your ancestors, you'd be like, wow, you're really wowed by it. I've been following for a while. You speaks truth. Thank you, Black Goddess. So again, you start building your spiritual core, especially when you start understanding the African diaspora religions. Because when we start talking about the Lama Damas, you just like, oh my God, like we have to study that in order to understand why we have certain um, indigenous elements in hoodoo. You're really not going to know the components of why we have some of those things in hoodoo until we look at the other African diasporic religions or spiritual practices. See, a Black Goddess says, my ancestor introduced me to other spirits. They will do that. I told you they told me to work with Elegba. Or I asked them. If you ask them, they'll start they'll start bringing things into your awareness that help you work with that deity, or that deity might start coming in your dreams, or you can start doing visual meditations to meet that deity in meditation. And that's one thing too that I see people uncomfortable with is shamanic journeying or visual meditation. You probably are more comfortable with trance, but again, we need that transmitter to be able to pick up these messages and communication. So whatever way some people like walking, some people doing visual meditation. I like doing visual meditation. I like doing journey work. I like to see how my mind unfolds. I love the imagination and see what happens. I can trust it. Okay. Some people, they have to be busy and go into a trance. So finding out too how you can go into those trance like states or access your imagination, because that's where the spirit is. What you think is imagination is really the spiritual realm. With your eyes open, what you see, this is not real. This could not be real without the imagination. Okay. That's why you see them push that when we were children. Oh, imagination. Oh, women, children in their imagination. They really push that. Okay. You know why? Because that's the real realm. That's where everything is created. And so getting you comfortable with meditation or trance, finding out how you can go into those states as well. Because you can meet the ancestors that way as well. I have been sitting straight up doing something else and going to a trance state. And sometimes I can't tell if I have had this in was this a deja vu? Was this a trance or was this a dream? Because it happens so much. Do you discuss how John? I'm seeing a lot of people discussing uh on on social media. We haven't got into High John yet. Uh Nothing beyond a root. But was I reading something today? Maybe I did. Yeah, I think we did. We talked about these anthropomorphic spirits that were born out of the imagination of our ancestors, such as High John. Okay. High John is not said to be a real person, but he is a real spiritual entity that was conjured out of the imagination of our ancestors. I hope that answered your question, the real Tashi. I didn't even know I had an answer until I had to remember this book review we did today on this hoodoo book. And these are again, we don't know if they really exist, but they were born out of the minds of our ancestors. And so they are real in the collective consciousness of all of us. I hope that made sense. And so to understand High John, we have to look through the lens of our ancestors and the folk tales that they told us about High John. Yes, 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 yes. Okay. Yes, ma'am. Says slowly learning that information can be a shape of spirit. They disguise it as business intelligence or media. It's really how we visualize our internal spirits. Okay. I was thinking about that the other day. I was looking at something and it was something old and people were sitting by the radio listening to these old radio stories. And I thought to myself, "Oh my gosh, our imagination just got so screwed up because now we got a TV." Can you imagine the imagination they had to have to listen to stories on the radio? People would gather around and listen to stories on the radio. And so they were able to create their own screens visualization within their mind and their imagination, and that was so powerful. And you had a lot of people they did not want the TV. A lot of people, a lot of older people they did not like that TV. They called it a line vision. They did not like that TV. They felt like it was just going to destroy us. And it's a lot. I even had a man I can remember working in a plasma center, and this man he was so honest. He was sharing a moment with me, but I didn't know it was a moment. I was young, you guys, okay? And so this guy looks at me and he looks at me and he said, "You know what? Saved me and my wife." And I said, "What?" He said, "The TV." I said, "Are you kidding me?" He said, "The TV. I I can't have a TV. It makes me act different." I was like, "You got to be kidding me." He was like, "No." I mean, I laughed and I chuckled and he looked at me dead. He was so serious. He looked at me and didn't crack a smile. And I didn't get that then, but I get that now because I have days where I don't watch the TV. I have days like today I didn't post anything on TikTok. You know, you have days where you just want to be in silent with your own thoughts, you know. There's no pressure there. And I often wonder, because social media is so pressed for popularity, it's so pressed for influence, it is easy for someone to get caught up in their ego on this platform and lose their purpose. And when I feel like it's that way, it feel pressure. What is the purpose here? Is being, being popular on social media, or is the purpose more important? The purpose is more important, right? Okay. You guys here are important. The people that is getting the message who resonate with the message. That's important to me. Whoever is for, then that's who needs to get it. And again, I had to go if the ancestors. Where was I reading that? It was running these. I've done so many lectures and stuff, but I don't know what book I was reading. But it was saying that if everybody love you and you got a lot of followers or you got all this, something is wrong because everybody shouldn't like you. Well, Black Goddess said I can't watch TV myself. I haven't even watched that. What is that Tyler Perry movie Straw? I don't even want to watch it because I don't even feel like bringing my frequency down that low to watch that. I'd rather watch what is that Highway to Heaven or something. I'm watching it. I'm going back acting like my grandma. Them. I'd rather watch Highway to Heaven or something like that. Uh, I haven't even watched it because again, you're tampering with my frequency. And I don't want my frequency. I already know the stories of my mothers, of my great mothers. I already know what they went through. I don't need you to remind me of that trauma. It is something that we continue to try to heal from. So we don't need a recapture of that. Why don't you make something that show how we heal, how we heal from that? Somebody that's healed. Yeah, the Coca Cola said Highway to Heaven. Yeah, I'd rather watch that. You know, I just, I just, again, we learn how to be careful with our energy. We learn how to be careful with our frequency, our vibration. That's very important because you have a lot of people, they are ruled by their emotions. They even say that we buy off our emotions. When they set something up, they want you to tell your story that people are compelled to buy and move by their emotions. What does that tell you? There's not a lot of thinking going on there. There's not a lot of thinking going on there. If somebody is doing things out of their emotions, they are going to be impulsive. But yet that's how people are they are buying, they're doing businesses people, they're uh connecting with people is through emotional responses. And they know that, and they gear things up like that. That's why you see a lot of some of these posts, the people, uh, some of the things they say that's very highly intense and emotional. People like that. They get attention, you know. And then when that all goes to hell, or they find out how the individual really is, it surprises them. But why does that surprises you? Because that's the way, that is the thing that attracted you to them. So again, you have to go back and look at your wounds, because a lot of us out here trauma bonding, we ain't healing. Some of us like being talked crazy to be pressed into things. We like people talking crazy to us. You know, go back and look at some of the things that I can go back. I can give you an example. Dr. Omar Johnson, totally abused to me that community, and was not grateful for the money that he was able to raise in the community, and the way he ridiculed the black community because they didn't give him more money. And we haven't seen his school yet. But because he was able to go in and sway people with his emotions and words, people bought into that. That's what happens. No one is doing any real thinking. Another one that's on the rise, and I said, watch him very close. It just trips me out how these people come out of nowhere and infiltrate the metaphysical community. But that Uncle 607, watch that. Because again, you got people swaying you with words and using your emotions. And some people are taking the bait and getting absolutely nothing. And then the people you know, that are genuine, that is honestly trying to um, be an asset, you don't want to hear that because uh, they're not emotional. They're not doing anything to sway you because they are balanced. They're grounded in their spiritual walk, so they have no reason to do that. Okay, they have no reason to do that. I think a good example of that is I may be saying his name wrong, but I like his delivery. Is Dr. Dilbert Blake. Is that his name? Dr. Dilbert? I like his approach because he always come from a sound, logical stance when he's speaking. Okay. There is no fluff with it. There is no trying to move you emotionally. There's no, he simply presents the information and you make your decision. Okay. Yeah, Dr. Debbie Blair. He passed away a few years ago. May he rest with the ancestors. So again, I like his approach. And then you have others like that too that make a sound approach, but you don't like them because they ain't like Cardi B. You want somebody like Cardi B. That is some folks like that now. If you ain't sounding like Cardi B, if you ain't sounding like Megan Thee Stallion, if you ain't sounding like them, you ain't resonating them with, with these high emotions and all this stuff, then they ain't hearing you. And you have people like, or they're being very disrespectful to some of their followers. I'm not Some people like abuse. They like to, they like those high charged emotions. Okay. And over here in Hoodoo, we learn to get that under control. We learn to find out that we are addicted to excitement. There was some type of abandonment, something going on. You get to the bottom of that, because it's certain work you ain't gonna be able to do if you got that going on with you. Folks want to be wretched these days. Shake my head. Dr. Jewel Pookrum and Dr. Deborah Blair are on that density. Yeah. Okay. Again, explaining things to you. Uh, you got people being up here being over emotional. They're very emotional. They're very, working so much out of their ego. You even seeing it in the spiritual community. Uh, and then I too, I wonder about people just coming here sharing work here. They just constantly, and then the people that's working out of all these spells with no type of grounding, none of your work is grounded. You have no historical information. You have no spiritual science behind your work. You have nothing but a whole bunch of book of spells. That's all you got. You don't understand the science or components of any of it. You just seen the flashy, you saw the glitter on the candle and the herbs, and you thought, hey, I'ma do it too. You better know what you're doing. And that's just, you got some people out here, they doing hex work, and you don't understand what you are doing, the components of hex work, what kind of energies that you're working with. And then you run around here trying to figure out why you suicidal, why you feel depressed, why you feel like crap. But nobody told you the repercussions of doing that. What types of energies and oppressive spirits you need to work with to do that. What type of mind frame you should be in when you do that, and how you should do that. Again, because you don't understand the spiritual science. You don't understand how oppressive spirits work. You don't understand how negative spirits work. You don't know how that shows up in your consciousness. You don't know uh, the internal dialogue, the things they tell you to make you feel bad about yourself. See, when you don't know that, you just grabbing stuff. You think it looks so cute, and I want to do it too, and I want to hex them, and I want to do that, because you don't understand the spiritual components. You don't know how to cleanse and get it out of there after you do your work. You don't know what type of frame of mind you need to put yourself back in when you get done with that work. You don't know. You're just doing stuff because you seen somebody else doing it. Okay. And over there, you get, like over in our community, we start you off with healing first. We start you off with communicating with your ancestors first. Matter of fact, I don't want you doing nothing else until you do that. Yeah, it's a lot of things over there, but that's, you're gonna hear me bang that in your head. You're gonna get so tired of me saying it. I don't care. Because you don't hear it. Evidently you don't hear it enough. Okay. I don't think it's said enough. So you'll hear me say that again. Go back to the beginning. Go back to your ancestors. Do a divination. Did you ask your ancestors? That's what you're gonna hear me say when you ask me something. Did you ask your ancestors? If you asking me to give you something or help you with something, let's do a reading first. I'm not gonna just be giving you nothing. And then I don't know what's going on. You could be lying to me. I ain't gonna help you till I find out what's going on. They want a quick fixes and love spells from ancient divination systems too. It's a mockery, and I grew up Christian. that was time stamping said that on the YouTube channel. They do. They want these love spells. And I don't. Again, these love spells. You need to stay. There's other options. There's other options than love spells. You need to learn. You need to learn more about hoodoo. That's when I say you need to learn more about domination. You need to learn more about commanding. That's what you need to learn. If you're thinking about a love spell, you probably need to do more, learn more about seduction, commanding and domination. But love spell is gonna get yourself somewhere hurt because that can turn ugly. Okay, somebody get obsessed with you and they got this obsessive spirit with them because you want them love spell. You wanted them to be obsessed with you and all that, and now you can't get rid of this person. They despise you and love you all at the same time. Now you seen that boy on that was that on the TikTok? The young man unalived himself and his wife. And come to find out, he said he found out one of her family members was working him, doing love work on him. That stuff is real, y'all. They not lying. I've lived some of that. I've lived some of that. So you thinking you want, master yourself, because if you're trying to make somebody love you, you need to ask yourself, how come you can't love yourself? Because love should already be there when you go in a relationship. You don't go in a relationship to find love. You go in the relationship with love. And if you're going in there to find love, you're going in there for the wrong reasons already. And no one is going to be able to love you the way you love yourself. And if you don't know how to love yourself first, and understand a person can only love you uh with what they have. And see, that's what that a lot of us going to these relationships too. We want them to love us the way they want us, the way we want to be loved. No, they can only love you the way they know how. That's all they have to give. They don't know no other way. Then you're disappointed because they didn't love you the way you wanted to be loved. Mainly because you don't know how to do that for yourself. And so now you want them to fill in the gaps. Again, you think this stuff is cute, with these love spells. And again, our ancestors, they only used them back in love spells, and love workers were only useful back then because women were trying to hold on to their significant other. You're welcome. I don't know why it won't allow you to donate. Somebody donated the other day. I don't know who it was, but somebody donated the other day. I don't know how they did it. I don't know how they did it, but they donated the other day. But again, that it's not necessary putting some thought into your work. What you trying to do with this man, and then a woman. Back then, they were putting love workings on men to try to keep them at home because men, they would stray away. Some of these men would just stray away, and so they was trying to lock them down, and so they was doing love work on them. And then you had some of the conjure men who was trying to get rich women or whatever. They would be do love working on them. So it was a reason they were doing it. But do we need that now? Absolutely not, because women can get their own money. They got their own now. There's no reason to lock down a man anymore. It's no reason for that. It's really not a reason for it. Okay. Now, you need to figure out what you're trying to do. I had, like I said, I did a reading on here one day. That was crazy. I felt like I was just all in that woman's business like that. But the more I was doing this reading on her, it looked like she was dominating this man. She was working this man, and I was just like, and she wanted me to keep going in the reading. I said, I feel like I'm doing something wrong. Uh, on this reading, I'm stopping it right here until. Thank you, Israel Tashi. Welcome, welcome, welcome. We're happy to have you over there. Take a look around. You'll find a lot of things over there, and we're getting ready to drop some more juicy stuff. So stick around. And we have a workshop coming up too. So the more I did that reading on her, I said, "Oh my gosh, I think this woman, it was just coming up. She's working him. He's doing everything that she wants to do." And it was an older man too. He was, I think she was a sugar baby, and
And she was wanting the information that I was giving her. It's like she wanted these confirmations, but I had to stop. I said, I have to stop because I'm getting all of your business. I don't think that we should be sharing all your business out here in the street on this live stream. Had I known you had all this stuff going on, I probably wouldn't have did your reading, but that's how it happens sometimes. And I can just see all these pictures and images. I think she was working that man. She was not doing a love spell on him. And I think that, that was her way. She dominated him, and he was doing everything she wanted him to do, you know. So whatever she was doing, she was working him, and he was doing exactly uh what she wanted him to do. It was not a love spell. It was some type of commanding or domination work she was doing on that man. And she was getting what she wanted. And that, versus a love spell, I would do that versus a love spell, you know. Again, because those things can go crazy and you just don't know how they're going to hit. Okay? You just don't know how they're going to hit. And it doesn't take a lot for your workings. If you think you got to get all these sort of herbs and all that to get over there, no, you don't. You can work with whatever you have in your house. You can make some salt do something. You can make some pepper do something. You can use whatever you have in your house and make it work. And I trip out on these some of these hoodoo practitioners. I know I was in the hoodoo course, and this person was telling us to get all sort of stuff, and I said that's not hoodoo. If you're telling us that we can't do certain work without something that you're trying to get us to buy from your shop, then that's not real hoodoo. What are you teaching here? Okay, you should be able to, be able to forge, either forge what you need or use whatever you have in your kitchen. Believe me, I've been working with nothing but what? Sugar, salt, chamomile, uh, cooking oil. Yeah, cooking oil. Cooking oil is whatever you got in your kitchen, you can make it pop. What really matters is, do you know what you're doing? Because having the right ingredient, having all these fancy ingredients is not where the power is. You the power, you the magic when you know what you're doing. Hey, Michael Baskerville. And then a lot of people too, what I'm seeing out here, don't talk about your work. Don't put your work, please don't put your work on the internet. You might as well stand out in front of this camera naked with no clothes on if you gonna do that. You gonna show your altar in your work. You might as well just stand up in here naked. You putting all your business in the street. We don't want to taint our work. We don't want to taint our work. And you want to just keep your mouth shut too. Just keep it shut and closed. Be doing a lot of that, especially when you start doing your workings and stuff. You're gonna learn to start keeping your mouth closed when you see how powerful your tongue is in your mouth. How you see how fast you manifest stuff. You gonna keep your mouth closed. You're not gonna be doing a whole bunch of talking. Because that's gonna be imperative. You knew how powerful your mouth is, and you learned it over there. And when you start doing your work and stuff, you're gonna start keeping your mouth closed. In fact, your ancestors gonna require you to. They're gonna be telling you to hush your mouth, sit down, be quiet. Okay, you reserve your chi, and then you're opening up the lines of communication to communicate with spirit. Because if you always talking and running your mouth, spirit can't tell you nothing because you won't be quiet and listen. So a lot of that'll be going on is hushing your mouth. And most practitioners, a lot of them keep their mouth hush or they're very careful at how they word things because they know that their words are conjurers too. It can conjure up certain energy. Who was that? I was talking to my mom one time and she was telling me to be careful what I say. And I was like, why? She was like, Penny, because if we're not careful, we have the power to incite um, What did she say? Riots. She said, I have did it before. So it's some people that have power to incite riots with their words. With their words, they can incite riots. So you have to be careful with your word. That's why that Malcolm X is a person like that. With the things that he said, he had the type of mouth, that conjure mouth, that he could do that. He could conjure up those type of warrior spirits. Okay, so you have to be careful with your mouth, with how you saying and what you're saying as well. And when you understand the power of your tongue, how much power you have in the vibration of your mouth, your tongue, you be careful with it when you start seeing the things you start to manifest with your mouth, especially when you're using that conjure book, that Bible. Okay. Anyone have any more questions? You got some questions for me about hoodoo? Because I'm real rounded in ancestors work, real rounded in that. And that's the basis of hoodoo. And we go through all that, getting your altar set up. At some point, you're gonna have to have an altar in hoodoo. I know a lot of people think they can go without that, but at some point, you're gonna have to have one to do steady work, especially if you working with money and things like that. You need steady work. Every time just doing a spell for money. No, you need an altar with steady flow of abundance and prosperity to go. You need an altar just focused on that. Okay. And it's good to have those sort of altars that's focused on certain things, because again, only that energy is being shifted in on that altar, and you can focus in on that specific thing. A lot of people try to do a lot of work from one altar. I don't recommend it because the energy gets all mixed up like that. Okay. But again, you get a chance to learn from the ground up, the healing. I'm not gonna be throwing a whole bunch of spells on you at you. You can throw them at me, and I can tell you what I think. I want to see what you know, what you put together, because you need to see what you can put together. You need to trust that. You need to trust your own magic. Your ancestors got their own magic, and they want you to learn it, and they want you to put it together. What made you get into hoodoo, or what it grounded you in you by family growing up? Uh, I started looking into hoodoo when I started seeing the variety in it. I looked at Ifa. I looked at Lukumi and Palo Santo. I looked at those, and what was really, again, I was getting out of religion too, and I just did not want to go into a religion. Okay, I just didn't know religion, didn't want no religion. I just didn't want it. How Shakur said, I just didn't want any religion. I just didn't want it. And so I was like, no, I don't want to go through this. And then the way everybody would just like initiate, I seen that thing going on. And I was like, why does that remind me so much of Christianity? I don't want to do that. And so when I looked into hoodoo and I saw how vast it was and how liberating it was, and hi, how you doing? How liberating it was. And it gave me options. It gave me freedom. Again, I was looking for liberation because, again, we were born, a lot of us are bound by that Christianity for a long time. And I looked at hoodoo and I was like, oh, I like this. And it didn't stop me from looking at voodoo. In fact, it opened the door to voodoo. It didn't stop me from looking at Ifa or the Orisha. In fact, it opened the door for me to look at the Orisha and look at Ifa, look at that spiritual system. Okay. And so that's what I liked about hoodoo. And then the most important thing I loved about it is the ancestors. That was the most important thing I loved about hoodoo, is the ancestors and how they lead you on this journey. And that's what I loved about it. And then when I decided this is what I wanted to do, I started having these experiences with my ancestors, and them leading me and teaching me. and broadening my practice. And so that's how I got into hoodoo. Okay. And I like being again and I hear a lot of African religions say this, and I've heard some Africa diaspora religions say this. Well, you know that hoodoo was created out of survival, and to me, it just sounds like they're trying to belittle it when they say that. But I'm like, didn't your religion, when your religion created out of survival? So don't make hoodoo make it look like it's a scavenger type of religion because it's or a spiritual practice because it's not. Your religion was born out of survival as well. So I think when I hear people say that, I feel like they're trying to make hoodoo look like it's low or whatever, but it is not. It is made out of the same thing. You just decided to be colonized and follow the colonizer and say, we're going to make this a religion. But at first, it was a spiritual practice of our ancestors. It wasn't a religion, it was a part of our culture, it was immersed in our daily life. And now that we got over here with religion and again, you want to follow what the colonizer do. So you want to commercialize it and call it a religion. And it was not that at first when it was in the authentic hands of our ancestors. It was our cultural practice. It was a part of our everyday life. But now that you guys see that you can capitalize off of it like religion, because a religion is a business, then you guys started a religion and now it's the initiation thing going on. Okay. So, that's what attracted me to hoodoo, and I've been grounded in it ever since. My ancestors just never really led me to want to be initiated. Now they have had me looking at I did work with the Orisha when it comes to doing ancestral work. They have led me to work with the Orisha, especially when I'm doing ancestral work. I work with Papa Legba. It depends on how it's been happening now. Is if there's some communication I feel like that's getting muddled, or if I feel like our communication, spiritual communication, is getting muddled, then I will call on Papa Legba, and now he starts to show up in my dreams. You know, um, as well. He'll come show up in my dream. But I've also had angels that show up in my dreams too. So you get over there and you start doing the rituals, especially the archangel rituals. We have that for you. You'll have, and then you're working with them on certain issues. You'll have the archangels, the angels start showing up in your dreams. 11 watching at minutes at 111 divination. Okay, then. So they'll start showing, and you'll see in the rituals, you'll know when it's working. You'll know when you're being consistent in your rituals, because those angels, your ancestors, that start showing up in your dream. It's going to kick up the dreams. The rituals are going to kick up the dreams, because again, this is to get your magic mind, your spiritual mind, your subconscious mind working, activating it, and that's what rituals do. And working with those high vibrational energies start shifting out a lot of that lower vibrational thought forms that you're having. You'll start to see your thought pattern will change once you start doing those rituals. Your thought patterns will change. You will start having less negative thoughts the more you work with these higher vibrational energies. It'll just change. Okay. And if it doesn't change, again, we go in and we start doing the shadow work and seeing what trauma is being stuck there. Okay. I love Oshun. Okay. And again, we talk about working with them via when we start looking at the saints. That is the safest way to start working with the orishas and some of the voodoo and the deities, because the more we learn about the saints, the more we learn about the deities, and we can start working with them because a lot of them were synchronized with the saints. Okay, and we break all that down so you can understand that, especially when you go to looking at the saints, because the more I can say this again, again, and again, it's going to be repetitive. Because again, this is a science. When you look at it, the more we look at the saints start looking ancestral. They do. They start looking like they some kin to you. They do. And I mean this literally and figuratively as well. Because when you go back and look at a lot of these saints, they were dark skinned people. They were people in the community. A lot of the Catholics did not want to canonize them, but because the people in the community were so adamant about them being a person of good deed and they have earned their right to be canonized, Catholics had no choice but to make them a saint and canonize them. So understanding the stories of the saints too, because most of them were not Christian; they were forced into Christianity, and they did this so they can service their community. So really understanding the context behind the saints too, it gives you a deeper appreciation when you work with them and understanding their story and how it's related to our spiritual system in Hoodoo. Hope that made sense. Again, if you don't know the history of hoodoo, you don't know where it come from, and you don't know how many spiritual options you have and how many ancestors walk with you, and you don't know you have a spiritual cord and all that, you probably gonna be reaching for all kinds of stuff. And really, you need to be learning how to work with a spirit. You need to be learning how to work with your ancestors. And I don't know why you scared to work with a spirit because that's what you are. That's what you are. That's what you are. So why wouldn't you learn to talk to one? Saint Raymond, okay, especially with Saint Raymond, someone has an affinity for Saint Raymond, okay. And I would love to, like I said, there's a lot of them. And see, I don't think I've heard of Saint Raymond before, but see, there's so many saints, and we post them over there. We got a whole uh online platform where you can go in and look at all these saints, all their stories, and some of them have their own books. They have their own canon about their life and the way they did rituals. And so, knowing this information, the more information you have with the saint, the better chances you have connecting with them and getting your work done. A lot of people like Saint Expedite. He comes in at a pinch. When they need something fast going, they call on Saint Expedite. Again, learning how to connect with spirit, learning more about your ancestors when it comes to spirit communication, because your ancestors are going to be teaching you mediumship through contacting them and communicating with them consistently. Not that 1 month leaving water on the altar till it turn cloudy, food mildew. No, we're not playing that over there because we don't do no messy tables over here. We want our stuff to be right. So consistency is the key uh to see your hoodoo flourish. Christianity Baptist Church, because many of to be afraid of work with the saints and ancestor spirit. And it used to not be like that. You see a lot of them too went into Catholicism because they wanted to keep their options open as well. But yeah, a lot of them, I don't know. I believe that there was a split that went that really happened when they decided to take hoodoo out of the church, period. That's when you see a lot of them splitting up because you start seeing these spiritualist churches start to grow in America too. So, and then that thing that happened with what's his name? That Mason, Bishop Mason, the jury, some people said they told him to stop doing conjure work, but yet it looks like he was still doing conjure work. And so, just in that, just looking at Bishop Mason, you can tell that something happened within the black church that they were trying to separate themselves from hoodoo. Because again, you see these spiritualist churches, start to come on the rise during that a certain time. I think that start happening in maybe the 60s or 70s. You start seeing that happen. These spiritualist churches start becoming very popular. And most people in these spiritual churches is hoodoo in there. Now you go in there, you may not see that. It may look like a real church. It's like a regular church. But if the regular members, the people that are regular members of the church, they get a chance to see the hoodoo that you don't see. And you usually gonna see that through some type of prayer service or something that they have during the week or something like that. But they got some type of hoodoo woman in there. The first lady could be a hoodoo woman. Uh, it just all depends. They have them in there though. It's not very many, but they still have some. I'm drawn to Anubis, the realm of the dead, death ending, and beginning of birth. I feel like I'm right on the line, and it gets lonely sometimes. But I love solitude with nature. What spirits can be a camaraderie. Okay, I'm gonna speak from I don't know much about Kemet. We have not got into Kemet yet on the hoodoo side, but like the ancestors told me, working with them, you can also see hoodoo in Kemet because the common people in Egypt or Kemet, they practice a form of folk magic that looked exactly like hoodoo. So when you start looking at some of the things they did in Kemet, it looks a lot like hoodoo. That's just how old hoodoo is, for lack of a better term, but it is old. So if you're asking for spirits of camaraderie, the only thing I can think of is you have Mama Bridget, you have Oya, you have Baron Samedi. Those are the ones I can think about right now. And I'm not sure, I don't know how many hoodoo practitioners work with her, but you have Santa Muerte. Again, I'm just giving you the ones that are associated with death and rebirth. Okay. But if you are working with comedic spirits, I think Anubis is the one you probably need to work with. I would recommend that you start doing some rituals with Anubis if you can find some that you can be consistent with. What is the best time to work with Anubis? What is the best day to work with Anubis? What is their likes? Do you got a table set up for Anubis that'll draw that spirit to you? Again, being consistent. What is the offerings? Again, the thing is get close as you can and work with them to when they start popping up in dreams, and you'll start seeing more archetypes of them in your life. Uh-huh. Okay, Conjure Chris said the categories of comedic spirits within hoodoo go under the category of ancient spirits and intellectual spirit. And again, they will be under non-Christian too. So again, I think that goes on the conjure side again, because when you look at comedic with studying the esoteric and the occult over there in hoodoo, we understand that a lot of that knowledge came from Kemet. So learning those ceremonies and learning those invocations is probably going to help you be able to better work with those deities. And again, we talk about the rituals over there, some of the invocations that we have over there, especially when we talk about the lesser banishing ritual. Um, when we talk about the middle pillar exercise, and they're all, again, I would learn as much as I can about the Kemetic spiritual system and start implementing that and start doing those rituals if you want to get better at working with Anubis and looking for those signs and symbols. Yes, I've started producing altars out of nowhere and the tithe to them. Okay, so when you said tithe, okay, TikTok, I'm gonna let you go because this phone gonna die on me. So I'm going to go ahead and close TikTok. And if you want to jump over here to YouTube, you can. We're on YouTube live too, but I'm gonna have to let this charge up. I'm sorry, you guys, but come over here to YouTube. It's the same name. Nothing has changed, but come join us on YouTube. So, Hotel, hi, Michael Bakersfield, Hotel at Country Chris, heavy at the intellectual side of the game. And again, And a lot of people don't understand it. I'm glad you said that because most of these spirits are going to be giving you all sorts of creative ideas. So don't be surprised when your thinking pattern change. That's what happens when you start to work with these higher intelligences. Okay, that's what a lot of people not telling you, and they make it look like smokes and bells and whistles. But take it from us who have been doing rituals, and we sit here and talk to you about rituals. We know exactly what we talk about when we're talking about our experience with these angels or with these higher intelligences. Because the way you're thinking, that's why it's so important to have yourself healed. Because if you're at a low frequency, you haven't moved out a lot of stuff, it's going to be hard for you to communicate with these energies. When I say tithe, I may add or subtract items that expand the body of the spirit. Hmm. I don't know what to make of that. Now I know what I can say what I do, and maybe this is what you mean. I know for some rituals or trying to get some things done, you may have to fast, do some type of sacrifice. That's what spirit recognizes, and we talk about that in hoodoo too. Uh, when we was looking at the hoodoo Bible magic. So it may be times where I would have to sacrifice. I may not eat, breakfast or lunch. I'm just gonna focus on working with that deity and keeping the lines of communication. Hi, Angelus Carter. Uh, Keeping the lines of communication open. And so I might do that. What else I might do? Or I might go out of my way and put a very special offering up there for them, or cook a specific food they like. Or I might go out of my way too, because you have some of these deities, they're attracted to certain stones, they're attracted to certain metals as well, to certain sigils. They even may guide you to make a sigil or a seal that attract them to you. We're talking about now we were talking about Anubis, just working with spirits and rituals. That's what we were talking about, Angelus. And so again, you know, they all have their way of how they want to be paid. And then you have some spirits on the countryside. That's why you have to be careful. You sometimes you have to pay spirit. Like you pay your ancestors and you giving them offers and stuff like that. You get in the countryside, you have to pay some of these spirits. Okay, that's when you go to working with again these non-Christian entities. And that's just like when you're working with the Orisha, you won't work with the Orisha the same way uh, you would work with your ancestors, so to speak. You would just first just sit out and start servicing them and talking to them. You won't be asking them for anything up front. Okay. Again, you try to build a relationship. And uh, even then, you still gonna have to pay them because you don't know what they want. Okay. Oshun might have you going over there. She might have you to clean up a place that's dirty near the a river or a stream. She don't like the way they look, and you might have to go clean that stream up and pick the paper up and pick that stuff up just as an offering to Oshun. They'll have you doing stuff like that. They may want you to give a donation to clean the river of the streams or water. Okay, so they want to be paid depending on what you have going on. You know, that's just like Saint Expedite. I think you pay him after he get the work done working with some saints. So again, your folks talk you better than pay them folks. They do something for you. Pay them. Give an offering. Okay, but they will tell you what they want. You have some archangels like that. They don't want anything particular. With archangels, it's pretty easy because they might want a very specific bouquet of beautiful flowers, and they might want you to set up certain vegetables or fruits or something on their altar as an offering. But you can do that too. You'll see that over there too with some of the non-Christian deities. They might want you to put, uh, you might have Pop. You work with Papa Leg, but he might want you to put a whole bunch of candy on there and some toys, and buy him a cane or a hat. Again, uh, you got to pay them. Again, you want to get their attention too, fast. Again, because that clear up the lines of communication, and spirit sees that. Okay, some type of nobody say you have to do it all day. You could do it, and you learn a lot of that too when you look at when you look at Lent, how they don't eat meat for a certain amount of time. They don't eat bread for a certain amount of time. You see that in the Passover. Spirit recognizes all those things. So realize, what kind of fast you're going to do to connect with those deities uh, in reverence of those deities as well. So it's so many ways you can do that. But we certainly got fasting and prayer down to a science because it helped us make breakthroughs, and we talk about that over there too. Okay. Begin paying these spirits and knowing you have to you have to pay them. Some spirits, it depends on their price. You got some spirits, again, they have a hefty price, especially sometimes when you work with some of these goetic spirits. Okay. And see, a lot of our, especially when we start talking about our African spiritual practices, that's why a lot of us, we had to do different type of anaism or sacrifices with chickens, goats, and things like that, because that's what some spirits want. Now you'll see that at Ifa, the way they have that set up, and a lack of but you can still work with these deities. But the way they have their ritual set up with these deities, they do blood offerings. And I was seeing one lady talk about being initiated, and I had never heard of it that way. But it made sense why they act the way they act when they see somebody doing something that's not in their religion, and they just swear they have to be initiated. But basically, this woman said she made a pact. She made a pact with, I don't know if it was Oya or Oshun, a pact in blood. But I said that makes sense because you did have a whole ritual where you have to shed blood and y'all had to do a contract, and then you have to align yourself to these deities. So I'm sure there was some sort of blood contract. So that put initiation in a brand new perspective when she said it like that. I said, no wonder y'all act the way y'all act. Because again, you are in a blood pact with this Orisha. And so it is certain things that you can't do, and you have to do a certain way because you got initiated through blood. You understand what I'm saying? That's the way y'all set up the tradition. So it makes you look at initiation, Ifa and those initiation in a brand new light, especially when I heard her describe it that way. Hello, I watched over your video about Freemasonry, and your grandfather is Freemason itself evil, or are there some evil people just like church? Isn't that Masonry and get evil in higher levels of rights? Okay, Dunny, that's a good question, and I did talk about Freemasonry. I think I talked about that the other day too. Now, see, what I look at Freemasonry, and we have to look at religion in all its context and how Christianity came into play. And so, when we see Christianity, Christianity comes into play because really, which I break that down a lot over there on Patreon, is that you have these men that's going in, uh, plagiarizing the spiritual practices of women, and they're setting up patriarchy. And what are they doing there? They're setting up phallic worship, because at first, everything is divine feminine. And when we go in Kabbalah, we talk about that, because in Kabbalah, these Jewish patriarchs, they set up this Kabbalah, but who's at the highest of Kabbalah? Shekinah glory. So they're trying to get back to the divine feminine. So you tore all that down just so you can create something to go back to the divine feminine. It's really nuts when you start to look at the occult and esoteric knowledge. It looks kind of crazy, these crazy men doing this. Um, it looks kind of crazy at first. And so you have these men doing that. And then you have some men that's in there saying, "Hey, no, we want this to be totally phallic worship. We don't want to do this with women at all. We don't want anything but women in here. We want this man God, our God. We want the God the way we want this God to look." And that's where you have Freemasonry. And so when I look at the church, they want to criticize Freemasonry because it is an idolatry sort of religion that they have made up. But you can't get mad at them because you started it first, patriarchs. You started it first. You started the plagiarism and the blasphemy first. And so when they saw you comfortable with doing it, of course you're going to have these other renegade men say, "Hey, we're going to do it our way. We want this totally for us." And so Freemasonry was born on materialism, much more on materialism in the material world than it is the spiritual world that Christianity claims to be um, based in. Okay, so that's where Freemasonry is based on the demiurge, the material god. Especially when you talk about the Gnostics, he says this God that they worship is supposed to be the architect of the universe. Okay, this made up God, and again, this is about materialism. When you really understand Freemasonry and how it functions, um, then you understand it is a God of this material world. They have created a God of this material that runs this material world. And they don't care what kind of God you have in there in Freemasonry. Again, because the thing is, you start to do these rituals, and you don't understand these rituals. And really, a lot of these rituals that they have you doing, you are making pacts and you are cursing your whole generational line. Now, a good movie to watch, a good show, because I kind of missed it in this show, would be Lovecraft Country. Because remember, they were doing fine first until they got into that, until they went into their Freemasonry, and then all their life went to hell. The girl, the arm got cut off. She started seeing stuff. What's his name? Atticus. He found out some stuff was going on with him. Everybody' life just kind of went crazy when they got into their Freemasonry. And all that was tied to what is the man name? The first black Freemason. Because you go down and see that whole bloodline suffered because of this black Freemason. Okay, that wanted to be among, you know, these other white masons, because that's how you got the boule being born. You got the black boule being born that's misguiding the people. Prince Hall, that's his name, Prince Hall. So that story was about Prince Hall, but go back and look at Prince Hall generation, because again, he had to go in and take that Masonic oath. And what does that Masonic oath do? It curse your bloodline down to the fourth generation. They would experience all sorts of misfortunes because of the oath they have to take in there. They have to really pledge their life in there. And when they do that, they bring curses up on their bloodline. So really go back and look at Lovecraft, and you'll see all hell broke loose when they were trying to go back into their Freemasonry and claim that Prince Hall. And really, they should have been probably clearing out that bloodline and doing some deliverance work. Okay, so that's what Freemasonry is. Again, it was another branch of Christianity, and these men, because it's private and it went on so long with only men going into Freemasonry, It is phallic worship. That is why they take their time and they put these phallics up everywhere. And so is Christianity, but they try to, Catholics, they try to hide it with they still bow down to the Virgin Mary. They still got have prayers, and they still have people that venerate Mary, the great mother. And the people that do that, they're still remembering the echoes of the divine feminine. See, they couldn't really stamp that out of Catholicism because they do have people that venerate the Virgin Mary. They go there just for that. That's the only reason they're in the Catholic Church, is because of that. Okay. And again, you really understand that, you know, it certainly came together with me. Another good book to read to give you more insight to what I'm talking about when it comes to Freemasonry is the book by Manly P. Hall, The Teachers of All Ages, because he admits that, because I love it because he becomes objective in the book. And he said, wait a minute, they got us dressing up in these goddess clothes. And he points out that the Pope still wears this attire because this is the attire of the ordained divine authority, which is divine feminine. So what you see the Pope wearing around here now, that is priestess attire. That is women attire. He's like cross-dressing. And a matter of fact, all of them are doing it. They're pretending like they're the divine feminine. And it's really blasphemous. But see, then you want to talk about the Freemasonry and tell, all the pastors and all that stuff don't be, getting and get involved in Freemasonry when you started the blasphemy. You started it. And so you opened the door for them to blaspheme even more. So my thing, the church is really trying to do things, they're trying to, help with that situation. But my thing is it too is you're gonna have to confess that you open the door to it. How you gonna teach them how to see when you blind too? Blind can't lead the blind. You understand me? So until they, come to terms with all this blasphemy that the patriarchs had done and take things out of context. Because you really can't do anything that, and the church started to realize that these pacts and oaths that they were taking in Freemasonry was affecting these people's lives and their families. And I'm a testament to that because it's still impacting my family right now today. But I've been speaking out on it. I've been praying about it, and I've been working with my ancestors on clearing out that generational trauma. And see, a lot of us may be under that type of we might be under that type of curse and don't even know it, where our fathers were forced, if they worked anywhere for the railroad track, the railroad, Union Pacific, uh the post office, especially if they old, uh what else, it's a variety, a lawyer, a banker, could be some type of businessman too, because they got into Freemasonry. A lot of them took oaths. I look at my grandfather. It was common for Union Pacific Railroad workers to synonymously become Freemasons. It was like it was part of the job. It went together. So you got some jobs out there like that. In order to get raises and to move up, you have to be a Freemason in the corporation. They have it synonymous like that in some of these places where they don't have a choice. And so that's why you'll see in the Bible, uh, the sins of the fathers is passed on to the next generation because a lot of the fathers made oaths. So the Bible really start to make sense when you understand um, the backdrop of everything that went on. But if you don't understand the history of it and you don't understand the occult and the esoteric meaning, you'll probably not put that together. But yeah, that Freemasonry thing, like it's like Donnie said, the higher you get in those levels, the more evil and more intense that energy gets. But then they have people that say they don't even make it from the fourth level of masonry. It's very few that make it to the 32nd, 33rd degree. Most of them make it what to the third or fourth degree, and they're happy where they are. They have what they want. But then you have the ones who are more ambitious, and so they have to go through the most bizarre rituals. And what are those rituals? Most of those rituals are linking you with lower uh, entities. Because you start seeing in some of them Freemasons, their life be a hot mess. They get to cheating. They be with all sorts of women. They have Brian McKnight is a prime example. Brian McKnight is a prime example. See how Brian McKnight he went and married a whole new lady and everything. We had no idea his son had cancer. I'm not saying he a Freemason, but I'm just saying it looks like it. And then he has a son that dies of terminal cancer. Then he looked fine and everything. But these are the things that happen when they start taking oaths like that, or their Freemasonry. Either somebody, and it gets more sinister as they move up. And a lot of them don't know anything about the rituals. They are blind to it. In fact, they have to take a blind oath when they become a Freemason. Just like, a lot of people have to be ignorant in Christianity. A Freemason is the same thing. Some of these men, they don't know until they have to do all these obscure, crazy rituals. They don't know until it's time. Yes, my grandfather was a very high up and things got very secretive. They did separate ceremonies before the actual funeral. Yep, they do separate ceremonies. They sure do. I was side eyeing the whole time. Yes, they do. They sure do. They do their own ritual at the funeral and all that. Mhm. Or they have to, again, a lot of them they have they life be raggedy. Their family now, like my grandfather, like if they remarry, the curses don't touch the new wife and the children. Okay. Now I don't know if it's going because he got some biological children too. It does go on to those biological children, but the first wife and the biological children, their curse go on to them, and most of them they will remarry because of the curses are so active in their family that manifest in their family. Those things are um, they are released upon the family when he take an oath. Because when he's taking an oath, the whole generation is standing there with him. Remember, our ancestors are standing with us. Okay, so when I was with my grandmother, I was my grandmother. I was in my mother's womb when my grandmother was pregnant with my mama. So again, those generations are still standing there when he's taking that oath. It's not him just taking that oath. He's taking an oath on his whole generation, his whole family. Okay. And that's why you see the sun, and you was standing there. You probably didn't even know you was there. You was in his loins though. When he was taking that oath, you was right there with him in his loins. Okay, just like that was right there with my grandmother, in my mother's womb. If she was to take an oath, I was right there with her. So again, I'm taking an oath with her because I'm there. It's cellular as well. And it looks harmless on the outside. These men look harmless on the outside when you looking at them, but you start talking about their life and their wife and their children and all that stuff. Let's see how it look. Ask them how that shit look. How their wife is. Because a lot of them they go to cheating. They just when they start taking an oath, and I don't think they're aware consciously because they have not been properly informed that these spirits they have given these spirits permission to rule in their life and to feast off their family. 'Cause that's basically what happens. They begin to feast off the family, and in turn for his progress, because that's what he wanted. And again, like Dunny says, the more higher up you get, the more obscure and crazy the rituals get. That you might go there and you might have to, tell him. You might have to do, you know, uh you don't know what you're gonna have to do, because I was hearing in one ritual when they got higher up, they didn't the older Freemasons, they kept it from other people, but they were using children to siphon energy out of children through all sorts of SAX. And that's something they had learned in the lodge when they got access to this other esoteric occult knowledge. So now they were siphoning the energy of children to live longer. They were doing these rituals in Freemasonry, and they're gonna, they know this is happening, because when you look at that human trafficking and all that, it all leads back to that. Okay, how do you think P Diddy was able to get off? Because he's a Freemason. He's already paid into that. And I'm sure the judge is a Freemason. You understand me? They're all around here. He just got a slap on the hand. He'll be going home soon. How did he alchemy? So it didn't surprise me that he got off. They all is they they all participate on that. Now, he probably took the fall for a lot of them. No telling how many of them was up in there doing ratchet stuff. But he took the fall for all of it. I'm sure he gonna still have his penny money, gonna still be living high on the hog. I don't know if anybody gonna be doing business with him like that. As far as music, if they put his life out there so much like that, I don't know who gonna be wanting to fool with him, knowing all that. But yeah, this thing it goes up high. But Freemasonry is it's just diabolical, and they talk about these priests of Baal. That's who they serve. Baal. That's the god of the material world. Okay, they even have a name for it. That's the God that they serve, and they don't care about your religion, because again, they know they know their mission and their plan, and they're gonna keep you out of. Again, it requires you to be ignorant and just follow them. Okay, then you got to keep your brother's secret. If he done unalive somebody, you got to keep that secret. See that kind of stuff, that is not of divine power. That is not of the Most High. You understand me? You got to keep somebody's secret. If they done unalive somebody, you got to keep that. All of that is built on a whole bunch of slimy. It's just slimy. It's sticky, nasty stuff, and that's why it's so secretive. And they saying they not a religion, but you are a religion. You don't do no charity. You go back and look at some of the money that they supposed to get a charity, it be almost nothing. So they're lying. You're a religion. Stop playing. That's what you are. You're a religion. And y'all bow down to Baal. You don't bow down to the Most High. And y'all have all these rituals that's still an abomination against women and children. You're a phallic worshiping religion that preys on women and children. That's what you do. That's what they are. Now they can make that look pretty all they want to, you know. Uh my thing is the proof is in the pudding. Look at their families, look how they life looking with their relationship with their wives. How is that looking? How they children doing? What health is their children is in? Because again, they take on this oath and they curse down to the fourth generation. That stuff don't get out until almost the fourth generation. And pray to nobody else go in there and take an oath, because again, it is brought back on the family. And I talk about this. I posted about this in Patreon to make people aware of that, and the prayers that you can do to start moving that out. I would recommend too that you work with Archangel Michael, doing that type of heavy work, like like that is to put him on put him on the issue to help you clear that out and start moving it out and renouncing any contracts that was made on your behalf that you were not aware of. And again, because when they take that, they take it for the whole family. And I used to wonder that too, because I can remember my mom telling me someone told her how she would pass away, about all these illnesses. And the more I go back and review these conversations, and how she told me that my grandfather had gave us to this thing, I kind of think that again because she was always taking me to hoodoo practitioners and things like that. I kind of think that she figured out that he took an oath, and someone told her, uh, in him taking that oath, how it was going to impact her life. I think I gotta think that because of some now I go back and revisit some of those conversations, and I'm like, she somebody had to tell her he took an oath because she was so matter of fact about it. And then of course I had my dream about it, but I didn't know what it was at first. I heard my um it's worse when you don't know it's that and you perform it, it makes sense why I had to get away from that spiritual system. And so I can remember having a dream before I left the States, and I had never dreamed about my grandfather. And I dreamed we were in this two-story house that he used to live in. He didn't live it anymore. But this house was in a rural area, and we was on a rock, and it had a rock road in front of it. And I was like, oh my gosh, I've never dreamed about him before. That's why I remembered the dream. And in the dream, my sister was there, my siblings was there, and my grandfather was getting ready to go somewhere. I don't know if he was getting ready to go to work or something. And so I go down and I check the mailbox. The mailbox, in the rural area, the mailbox is always down the road, is always on a rock road. That's how that was. And so I go to check the mailbox, and in front of this mailbox is this big, gooey, black glob or something. And every time I reach for the mailbox, um, this thing, it tries to take form and stop me from reaching the mailbox. And I was like, I was, and then I tried to run around the road to get a past it. It wouldn't let me get past the road. And so I run back. Yeah, so pastors take oaths too. It's some pastors that's Freemasons. Look at what's his name? TD Jakes. Look at that family. Look at TD Jakes' family. Look at those boys. Look at what's going on. I think that some essay went on with those boys too. But TD Jakes took a oath. Okay. You say your middle name is Othalie. Mm. Oh no, I just talked about Othello when I said that there's also a Greek name, a Moor named Othello that was written about in history. I think Morgan Freeman played him, if I'm not mistaken. It's either Lawrence Fishburne or Morgan Freeman played Othello. Maybe you're not named after him. I don't know. But yeah, and that's when I was like, that dream was so weird. That was so weird. And that's when I didn't put it together until a few weeks ago. Cause I again, yeah, he played the Moor. Uh-huh. And so when I put that together, I was like, this is the thing Mama was talking about. And then so many memories. Sometimes the your ancestors will give you information through meaningless memories you didn't think that mean nothing. And then when the time comes, those memories will come to you and they'll start talking to you, giving you information through those memories. That's what happened to me. Everything just started coming together in my mind. So crazy. But it came together. I said, this is that. And ancestors like, yeah, this is that. That was that thing. As I remember, I was like, I don't never dream about him. Why is he in the dream? And I specifically told him in the dream, Grandpa, I can't get past that thing. You need to go down there and see what's going on. Othello. Okay, my son name is Othello. Okay. So I would definitely look at it. Names mean something too. My name is Penelope. I was looking at have anybody seen that new Sandman? Have y'all seen that new Sandman that come out on Netflix? Honey, I was blown away because in the new one, my grandfather's name was Othalie, and my family are Christian pastors. I would really look into that, really see, because you sometimes they can have their Freemasonry under Christianity. So I would do a little research in there because a lot of them became Freemasons, and I think too that's when they got their hoodoo out the church, and a lot of them went into Freemasonry. I believe that. I believe a lot of them when they took hoodoo out the church, a lot of them got into Freemasonry. I believe that. I think that's one reason why they took hoodoo out, and that was the wrong thing to do. They should have kept doing their hoodoo. Okay. But I was looking at this, at Sandman, and I was looking at this writer. He was keeping this moves, and it reminded me so much of how they talked about how these philosophers was getting all this knowledge and ideas and creativity from these women. But in the show, this writer was keeping this moves captive. Her name was Calliope, and my name is Penelope. And I was like, "Oh my gosh, her name is so much like mine's. Let me go into this a little bit more." And it made me research my name a little more. And I said, "Oh my gosh, he was keeping this moves, so this moves would give him creative ideas." Thank you, time stamping army. When did they take it out? Which one are you talking about? Let me know what you're talking about, Donnie. But anyway, they were Penelope is a beautiful name. Okay. I was telling Donnie to tell me what the when did they take it out. Oh, you talking about the hoodoo? I don't know when they took it out. A thing that I look at the ancestors when I ask that question, the ancestors popped in my mind is that stuff with Bishop Mason. Remember when Bishop Mason was talking about, they were trying to take hoodoo at the church, that he didn't do any conjure anymore, but yet you see all these conjure items on his desk. That was around the time that they were taking hoodoo out the church and telling people to take it out the church. And I think they introduced Freemasonry around that time. That's just what the ancestors show me. A lot of these men got into Freemasonry because, again, that's when religion really became a business. If that makes sense to you, that's when we're gonna get away from that, because long as it was hoodoo, it was spiritual. God was up in there. You understand me? There was a rich faith, a strong faith in God, the Most High. And I think when they took Freemasonry out of that, that's when they commercialized that church and it became that prosperity preaching and all that stuff. But I believe that shift happened when they took hoodoo out their church, and a lot of them went into Freemasonry. I bet, if we was to look closer, because that's what the ancestors tell me. 'Cause every time I've asked that, they said go back to Bishop Mason. Remember what he said? He was trying to separate himself from hoodoo. Why? Why? And to me, the first thing popped in my head, because the Freemason, they was like, "What do you think? What do you think?" It wasn't there at first. Freemason wasn't in our churches like that at first. It's not until they got rid of hoodoo, Freemasonry became immersed in the church. So you go back and do your research, and that's what the ancestors tell me, and I believe them. I'm never shocked when I go, go look down in there and be like, I be damned, they wasn't even lying. This is right. So you do your own research and you come back and share that with us. But I think that's what happened. And I think that happened maybe around the late 50s or 60s when they really start preaching that prosperity thing, really start exploiting members to bring more money into the church. Okay. But yeah, I was watching that Calliope thing, and they were keeping her as a muse to give them ideas for writing books. And she was like, "Let me go, let me go, let me go." And she was talking to these higher gods, to help her. They was like, "We can't help you." I can't believe it. The first time I heard of Freemason was in church. That's where it started at. You can go back and look at. I know in Arkansas, I was at the Black Museum. We have it's a Black Museum, the Mosaic Templars, and even that's a Freemason name, Lord. Templars. Uh, at the Mosaic Templars, they have a display there of Freemasonry in the church. They got the book, the Freemason book, and everything on display at a Black museum at the Mosaic Templars in Arkansas. I thought that was peculiar. I said, and they were very proud of that to be displayed there. You see, they've been under the radar so far, and they've had a chance to really commercialize their image. They can make that look good, but they definitely had a display at the Mosaic Templars at our Black Museum there in Arkansas, where they showed the Freemasonry was in the church. Okay, so you do your own research, and I think they did that. You know, to get away from hoodoo when really hoodoo was something to be proud of till you got your hands bloody and you stepped over there and somebody else's mess that don't even belong to you. You bound down the bell. And you didn't have to do that in hoodoo. Hoodoo kept you on the right side of God. And then you got over there and somebody came in there and introduced that to you. And y'all bought that in the black church thinking it was better than hoodoo or it was like hoodoo. And it's nothing like hoodoo at all. I had to tick one of my teachers. I got concerned when she told me she was a Freemason. And now I go back and look at some of the material that she gave us. And I'm like, now it makes sense why she would give us all this. Because I had to tell her, too, this ain't hoodoo. I had to tell her. I said, ma'am, this is not hoodoo. I don't know what this is, but ma'am, this is not it. Okay. So I've seen that too. So you'll have them up in church. You'll have them up in church. You will never know. And again, when they took hoodoo at the church, maybe they thought that was going to replace hoodoo. They saw the rituals. They thought they were coming in contact with higher knowledge or whatever. I don't know what they thought. But they definitely invited into the church. But like I said, I was go watch that movie. What is that movie? That show called Sandman, when they talked about Calliope and they talked about her being a muse, and these men were using her to write these stories, and she called on Morphosis. It's something. It sounds like the Matrix, but she called on her ex-husband Morphosis to scare this man into letting her go. And I was like, oh my gosh, why does this sound like the story of the matriarchs when these patriarchs start stealing these poems, they start stealing these stories and ideas and philosophy from women. That's how philosophy was born. That's why you have Sophie on the end of philosophy, because it came from the Sophie women, the wise women. And so you see how they rewrite things, and I just thought that that story was just so interesting. I think that was the only part of that show that I found interesting, and then I fell asleep on it. I just Sandman moves so slow, it's just so subtle. And I started looking at I said, are they using AI or CGI or some in these movies? Because some of it looked like they're using AI, like the whole movie, the whole show looked like it's AI. Because after that, it started looking like it was AI, and I was like, I'm really done with this because this whole show looks like it was made by AI. I don't know. That's how it looked to me. But you probably want to go check that out uh, because now I look at these mooses. I said, oh, they made these mooses in remembrance of these women that held all these knowledge and they stole these stories because when you look at Shakespeare, he got a lot of his stuff from these women. When you go back and look at these philosophers, I talked about that. Socrates and a lot of them, they learn from women, but they keep that out. And now they call them in their myths, in their legends, they call these women muses. See how they redid that? But I thought that was something. Go check out the beginning of Sandman. I think there's a new season, and they talk about Calliope. And looking at that story, you can definitely see uh, echoes of the divine feminine in that story. So I thought that was neat. I just want to share that. Does anyone else have any? Just like Greeks stole their philosophy practice from Kemet. Exactly. But then we go back to Kemet too. I was talking about that, and I think a lot of people miss that. But when we go back to ancient Egypt, you look and see that it was an ancient matriarchs. And when they went in there to look at a lot of those matriarch temples, you saw that the patriarch buried them. They were under mud. So there was definitely some type of gender shift that happened in Kemet between Upper and Lower Egypt. And looking at those older ancient matriarch temples, because you have to remember that the pharaohs got their royalty through the divine feminine. Okay, everything came through her. And so there was a power shift and gender shift that happened. I talked about it that in my book, Matriarch to Patriarch. I go into more details about that gender shift and what happened in Kemet and how a lot of the deities that you see in there now, especially when you look at Tahuti, what is the other Thoth? When you look at those are more recent deities. They're not that oh, they are not ancient. Okay. When you look at Newt, you look at Sekhmet, you look at them, all of those deities are much older than some of the masculine deities. Again, going back looking at ancient Kemet, because see, they got you looking at all the pharaohs, but the further you go back, you see the divine feminine. What about the energy that comes from Clarksdale, Miss area? Clarksdale, Mississippi area. There's a lot of blues artists come from now. Even Rick Ross in movie Crossroads. The Crossroads is in Mounds also. Yes, there are bloodlines of matriarchy. Yes, yes, yes. Okay, Dunny asks, what about the energy that comes from Clarksville, Mississippi area that is a lot of blues artists that come from there. Now, even Rick Ross. Now, when I get into this, and I talked about this the other day, but there's a lot of conjure. Men are good conjurers. Men are good conjurers. You see that preacher up there huffing and puffing, and well, he want to come on down here. That's what blues is. Blues is conjure. Most of them were conjure men. Okay. And black people good at conjure. We're good at music. We know how to conjure up the spirit. When you hear us sing them church songs, and honey, you it make the skin quicken. Like the skin be goosebumps all over the skin. Now them blues men, I broke that down. Them is a lot of conjure men that's over there in Mississippi, and a lot of these conjure men to get themselves in trouble because what they have to do, they have to make a pact with a spirit. That's why I said when you go in the conjure, you got to pay. Okay? Some of these conjure men, they come in contact with some of these spirits, just like that movie Sinners. That boy, he got to own that thing. 100. See that other conjure man I already knew. What's his name? That Slim, that man named Slim. He had already come in contact with these spirits that was trying to get him to make a pact. But he didn't make no pact. You understand me? And then they get that other guy in there. He get to playing that blues music, and what them spirits do them. He bought them spirits out. They was wanting to make a pact with him. They was wanting again. It draws spirits, and you ain't got no control of what spirit is gonna be attracted to your conjure, especially when you don't know what you're doing. Crossroads, Robert Johnson. Again, these are conjure men. And you know, that's why you see a lot of people like Tupac and all of these rappers and stuff, you know, and I try to tell people stay on the root work side, do your shadow work first before you do the conjure. And you have a lot of these men, you know, a lot of people. I don't want to just say men because you got some conjure women out there too. They can conjure us for stuff too. They got a voice. They can tear up some stuff. What was that? Kiki Y. Kiki Y got a voice that could tear down a house. Patti LaBelle got a voice that could tear down a house. Again, these spirits are attracted to that. You understand me? And so you go to the right place, you'll conjure up a spirit. And you have to make a pact with them. And again, if you don't know anything about invoking, you don't know anything about conjuration, you can find yourself in a sticky situation with a spirit. And so that's why you see a lot of these artists up here that can rap and all this stuff they can sing, but their life is ragged as hell. Most of them conjure folks. They ain't did no type of shadow work, no type of healing work, but they over here making pacts with spirits. And men, I think men, for me, I think men are very good conjure men because they have to know how to communicate, especially if they want to get next to a woman. And what do? Men use conjure, they use flattery. They know how to make it sound good. Okay, they've had to learn how to conjure at a very young age. And so for me, I really think, and that's just my opinion, I think men are very good conjure men because again, they have to learn at a very young age how to flatter a woman, how to compliment a woman, the right things to say to get what he want from a woman. Again, and they learn at a very early age. I don't think it's right, you know. Some of them, I don't think it's right with some of them. But again, I just think men are very good at conjuring because they have to learn at a very young age to be wise with their words and to use their words to flatter women. And you got some women that's good conjuring women too. They've picked up the art of words and they know how to conjure as well. They're sirens. You got some women out there that can sing down the house, like I told you. Kiki White, Patti LaBelle, you know, again, can tear down the house. You know, what is another one? And she just be conjuring. And she's a gospel singer, but again, she's conjuring in the right way. Shirley Caesar. Shirley Caesar is a conjure woman. Shirley Caesar be conjuring. Go listen to listen to what she be saying. It's a lot of these artists, you know, these gospel art. That's why the music sounds so good. That's why when you listen to it, it quicken your skin. You be hearing goosebumps because they conjuring that spirit for you. They already giving you a head start of doing your conjure work just by tapping into that music. You'd be surprised if you use gospel doing some of your workings or whatever, it's gonna help you tap into that conjure that energy much more quicker and help your magic move. It's gonna help you shift real quick and tap into that energy. Dunny said, I have a very golden singing voice. and have had many dreams over the years where I am coming under spiritual attack to make me house in the dream. How do I defend against those attacks? I would say, go read Psalms 91. You could also put Psalms 91 under your Bible too. Then too, the spiritual attack. Can you see who's spiritually attacking you? You know, but I would definitely be sleeping with Psalms 91. I'll be saying Psalms 27 if I were you. And probably be singing a lot of gospel. Again, bringing in those energies into your space. I mean, I have some days like tomorrow, I'll probably get up and start cleaning up around here and I will play nothing but gospel music again to shift the energy in the house and to invite that sort of energy in the house to help cleanse the house as well. Okay. Earth to skin, grounding is amazing. Protection against psychic attacks as well. Yep, grounding is good. When I do most high powers moves in. Yep. Again, keeping them evoked. It's the reason why our ancestors said keep a song in your heart, keep a song in your mind because it keeps those lower energies at bay. Especially humming. If you're humming as well, can't no any thought just jump in your head if you're focused on the song. Keeping a song in your heart during the day. You might even have it where your ancestors or your spirit guides put a song in your head to sing, you know, to shift your energy. Music is very powerful and it really helps you shift the energy and set the intentions for the work that you're doing. And I'm grateful for that. Our ancestors left us so many tools to do our work and to help us shift. It's all around us and it's free. A lot of it's free. You go right to YouTube and get that popping with those gospel music. Uh, use some of Psalms 91 for those psychic attacks and sing a lot of uplifting songs. Okay, you guys, do y'all have any more questions for me before I close this out? I've been up here for 3 hours now. And you guys know I don't usually do lives this long. So I'm kind of proud of myself that I can chat this long with you guys. But you guys are easy to talk to and you ask really good questions, great engagement, and I love that. Any more questions? Because we've covered quite a bit here. And again, if you're interested, again, in learning authentic hoodoo the right way, the correct way, and pace yourself and connect with your ancestors. Again, we have a beautiful community, Spiritual Roots Hoodoo community on Patreon where you can take your time and you can learn. Nobody's rushing you. If you have uh, any issues with any questions, I am there to answer that. And we have plenty of information there, authentic, real hoodoo. What was the other thing I was going to say? Oh, yeah, and we're going to be starting a workshop soon because I was trying to put that off as much as I can, but the community is growing over there. And so I want to be able to provide people with resources and to help people get comfortable in their practice. So we will be starting workshops and there'll be a variety of workshops. One of the first ones I think that's important would be divination workshops. So if you're in the ritual tier or the conjure tier, you will be in that workshop. You will have access to that workshop. Okay. And divination is important, and I'm real rounded in divination, especially when it comes to tarot. Pendulums are easy. If those are easy for you, start off with pendulums before you start reading cards, and then move on to reading cards. But we're definitely going to be talking about divination and doing a workshop over there. And then I am the conjuror, which I can focus just on the conjuror because again, they're working with individual spirits and doing evocations and working on the astral realm. The things that we would need to be talk about, it would need to be amongst ourselves, but we're definitely going to be having some workshops in there talking about rituals and ceremonies and how to invoke different energies. So again, this is for anyone who, if you're new, you're welcome. If you're trying to amplify your magic and you're trying to put an umph in it and you want to understand the spiritual science of community, you're welcome. You're beginning, you're welcome. If you want to just take it to up another notch and you want to learn how to work, invoke or evoke spirits and work with spirits, you're welcome over there too. So it's something over there for everyone, and it's definitely affordable. You will not break the bank because the main thing is getting this information out and me mentoring you and giving you as much information as I can. There is no gatekeeping here, but it is closed. You must look like me because if you are not of African descent, you don't need to be over there. Okay? Everyone has their own folk magic, and this is ours. Okay? Only people look like us should be over there. No disrespect intended at all. Okay? So if y'all don't have any more questions for me, I'm gonna go ahead and shut it down. If you have, you think of any questions later, uh, yes, it is awesome, and I just love doing the work. I've been wanting to do this for a long time, and I'm so grateful for the opportunity to share everything I've learned because I can't keep everything in here. So much in here, so much in here, and so I have to get it out. If I don't use it, I lose it. So I'll give it to you when you get over there. But if you think of a question, yeah, I've heard people that use that Psalms 101 for retribution. And yeah, it could be really, really serious. Now, and I think it can be really, really serious if you know when and what time to use it. It can really be effective then, because timing is everything. I'm telling you now, timing is everything. You think it's not, and you mess around and do some work at the right time, and and you be like, oh my God, how come I wasn't doing this earlier? I'm telling you, timing is it is everything. But yeah, it probably can mess up some stuff. Because again, it has a lot of psychic energy in it, and our ancestors use that. So when we repeat it again and we carry our ancestors with us, again, it amplifies. It's like our ancestors is helping us say it as well. I hope that made sense. See, now Didi on to something. She already said it in that chat. She just dropped some gold, some gems, and some treasures right there when she said that right there in that chat. She putting the science together. What she just dropped in that chat, she just dropped gems right there in that chat. If y'all didn't get it, you probably need to get it. She on to something right there. And so when you can be consistent with that right there, you see a difference in your magic. Cause what she said, yep, the planetary hour work well for me. You see, she done already figured something out. It's Spiritual Roots Hoodoo Community. I think I dropped it in here. I drop it in here again. They got a link. I put the link in there again. Hey, timing is everything. Then knowing who you gonna talk to, and see, we break that all down. How your table should look when you getting ready to work with these intelligences. How your table should look. What should be on there. What they are attracted to. We break that all down because we want to. I want to see you successful. So again, putting that table up to attract those different energies there, so you can have an experience. And see, again, you get into that planetary, and again, working with those archangels as well. Do not sleep on those archangels because, again, they'll help you to shift your mind into higher consciousness when you understand how angels work. Your mind is going to operate differently when you start doing these rituals because if you got a low thinking pattern, expect for your thinking pattern to get better and better and better the more you do your rituals. Okay. All right, you guys, I'm going to close out, but if you have any more questions here, put them here and I'll try to answer them. Okay. Bye bye.